see y'all. Yeah, they say they're gonna release all of the Epstein files. They say all the Epstein files out. There'll be no more to come, according to Pam Bundy. But a lot of people like, man, absolutely not. Last time we checked, there was like 3 million left, y'all. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be interesting to see what comes of that. We also got today, what is her name? Guthrie. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. You know, it's like 17, 18 days she's been missing. We also got a Hillary Clinton interview regarding the Epstein files, man. It's crazy, man. Make sure if you're in the building, you double tapping that screen. Most definitely let me know you can hear me. Type something in the comment section. Let me know that you can hear me out there loud and clear. Let me know y'all can hear me. I'm reading the screen, making sure I can be heard. You know what I'm saying? If you can hear me, make sure you type something in that chat. What's up, Positive Vibes? Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me, Positive Vibes. Can you hear me out there?
Not pretty.
Girl, what you bring me that shit? Never mind. Can y'all hear me out there? All right, bet. Y'all can hear me. All right, we got we got Epstein files, man. They say they fully released. We also got the DOJ releasing 300 celebrity names, guys, off of the list. It's crazy, man. You know what I'm saying? Nancy Guthrie is still missing. You know, and we got the Hillary Clinton interview where she talks about basically Trump, you know what I'm saying, and what's going on with the Epstein files, guys. Make sure y'all double tapping that screen as we get into it. Can y'all still hear me out there, man? Somebody just tried to call me soon as I went live. Ain't that something? Make sure y'all can still hear me. Can y'all hear me out there? Type me another yes if you already typed one, if y'all can hear me. I had got a phone call interrupted me. Can y'all hear me? What's up, Valerie? Okay, all right, bet. All right. So, let's get into the first form of business, guys. Go get to it. Let's go ahead and get to it. Let's go ahead and get to the first order of business, guys. It's the Hillary Clinton interview. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if a lot of y'all seen it, but she most definitely is she's talking about what's going on with Trump, you know, and these Epstein files. You know, her and Bill are gonna have to testify in front of Congress. I think it's gonna be a private thing, you know, but they most definitely gonna have to speak to Congress about why their names came up so many times in them Epstein files, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's go here.
Late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein should testify before Congress. In a BBC interview, Mrs. Clinton also said she and her husband, Bill Clinton, want their forthcoming testimony about Epstein to be public. The couple had previously refused to testify to the...
They fighting for it to go public, guys. But basically Congress or whatever, they want to keep it hidden from the people. Why? You know, Hillary says, hey, man, I want it to be public.
Epstein inquiry and were threatened with contempt proceedings. Former President Bill Clinton appears several times in the Epstein files that were released by the U.S. Justice Department last month.
Thank you, Valerie.
Mr. Clinton knew Epstein, but has denied having any knowledge he was...
Look at Bill with these young women, man. You know what I'm saying? Look at Bill. You know what I'm saying? His face everywhere, man. You know what I'm saying? How many of y'all think Bill did something wrong, man? Let me know. Double tap that screen, though. Most definitely double tap that screen. That's how you hit the like button, man. It helps out the channel. Double tap that screen. Thank you, Valerie. Look at old Bill right there, man. Dirty Bill. You know what I'm saying? Bill having fun. Bill was he was having too much fun. Now look what's done happened.
Sex offender, and says he cut off contact with him 2 decades ago. Bill Clinton will appear in Congress for a deposition on the 27th of February, and Hillary...
Man, that tripped me out. They got Michael Jackson, you know, in these files. That's crazy. Michael Jackson and Diana Ross. Lord have mercy. Now, I heard something the other day. I don't know how true it is. You know, well, I know it's true because I seen Whoopi Goldberg name was in the Epstein file. She was most definitely speaking about being in there, you know, and saying she ain't did nothing. And then I seen the DOJ basically, well, I seen other news outlets say that basically anybody can be in the Epstein files and you didn't even really have to do nothing. I thought that was crazy. But yeah, man, they done put Whoopi in there. I saw that. What's up, EJ? You know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody in the building, man. You know, yeah, man, that's crazy. Whoopi Goldberg in there. But we got Michael Jackson and Diana Ross and Bill Clinton. You know what I'm saying? Kicking it with Epstein. Let's double tap that screen. Get the likes up.
Clinton is set to appear the day before. Our Europe correspondent Jessica Parker sat down with Mrs. Clinton.
Hillary Clinton, thank you for talking
There's
to BBC
Hillary.
News. I want to start off talking about...
Is it me or does Hillary look her age now, man? Hillary done got old right before our eyes, man. You know what I'm saying? I remember a younger Hillary Clinton, but she done grew all the way up now, man. Y'all double tap that screen. Get the likes up. She about to let you know what she thinks about the Trump administration, you know, in these Epstein files. Let's go.
the case of Jeffrey Epstein. You say you never met Jeffrey Epstein. Clearly your husband did know him. The former president says he knew him before his crimes came to light. But there are also associations with Ghislaine Maxwell, including in 2013 when she was a guest at a Clinton Global Initiative event, years after allegations had emerged against her. What I want to know is, do you regret the links that there have been between Epstein, Maxwell, and the Clinton family?
Well, let me start by saying that a law was passed in Congress to require that all the files that have anything to do with them be released. And what we're seeing, I think it's fair to say, is a continuing cover-up by the Trump administration. In fact, when the Attorney General testified last week, it was quite a scene because she refused to answer questions. She diverted attention away from...
Let's make sure we double tapping that screen, guys. We only got 18 likes. We need to double tap that screen. If you're on a mobile device, double tap that screen and click the 3 dots and hit that thumbs up, guys.
From the matters at hand, she refused to look at the survivors. So there's something about this administration's attitude toward this, which I think really leads us to conclude they have something to hide. We don't. We have been willing to say whatever we know. We've even done it under oath. But they want us to testify, not everyone else who's mentioned many, many times, hundreds of thousands of times in these files. So we've said, fine, let us do it in public. And we will appear in public and we'll answer all your questions.
And we'll get to that in just a moment. But just to be clear, do you regret the links that there have been?
You know, we have no links. We have a very clear record that we've been willing to talk about, which my husband has said. He took some rides on the airplane for his charitable work.
She say Bill took rides on the airplane for charitable work. What y'all think about that? That's what she said. Said Bill took rides on that plane for charity work. He was doing it for charity, guys. Yeah, he was doing it for charity. Yeah, man, he took rides on that plane. He was doing charity work, man. You know, that was the only reason why he was on that plane. That's what she said.
He took some rides on the airplane for his charitable work. I don't recall ever meeting him.
Did you ever meet Ghislaine Maxwell?
She don't even remember meeting Jeffrey Epstein. That's what Hillary says. She never met him. But most definitely Bill know exactly who he is because he was on that plane doing charity work. That's what she said.
Did on a few occasions, and
my bad, y'all. I lost connection some kind of way. My bad. I'm back.
What we know, which is very limited and totally unrelated to their behavior or their crimes. And we want to do it in public because let's make this transparent. The survivors deserve that. The public deserves that. But, you know, the Republican member of Congress who is running this hearing or this investigation is trying to protect the president. So let's get to what's really at stake here.
Just on this hearing, and obviously I'm sure Donald Trump and his administration would reject your characterization of what's going on, and He's denied
How
any
can they
wrongdoing.
reject it? They
But-
can't answer questions, and the Attorney General was clearly unwilling to answer questions. She works for him. So let's be very clear here. According to what we now know, Mr. Trump, President Trump, is mentioned, some say, 1 million times in the files. People in his cabinet are mentioned.
Is correct.
That's what it says, on the internet over and over again. So let's find out.
Let's
what
make sure
the
we
truth
get
is.
them
That's why
likes
we
up,
want
guys. Y'all pouring in, but y'all not hitting the like button. Let's double tap that screen, guys.
it to be transparent and in public.
On that, your upcoming appearance before the Oversight Committee, where are we with that? You want to appear in public versus closed-door deposition. Is it going ahead, and how? What is the format going to be?
We will show up, but we think it would be better to have it in public. Because what we want is for everybody to get to the facts about this. We have nothing to hide. We have called for the full release of these files repeatedly. We think sunlight is the best disinfectant. Get the files out. They are slow walking it. They are redacting the names of men who are in it. They are stonewalling legitimate requests from members of Congress. That has nothing to do with us. Something is going on. They know it. I know it. If they're going to have me testify, I would prefer to do it in public because I want everybody to see it at the same time.
Yeah, if she gonna be testifying, she prefer to do it in public where everybody can see. That's what Hillary said.
If I have to do it behind closed doors, they're not going to like what I have to say because I have very strong opinions about what it is they're hiding and who they are protecting.
I just want to ask you, there are calls for another individual who denies wrongdoing to go before Congress on this matter. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly Prince Andrew. Do you think he should testify?
I think everybody should testify. Look,
Including the former prince?
I think everybody should testify who is asked to testify. I just want it to be fair. I want everybody treated the same way. That's not true for my husband and me because other witnesses were asked to testify. They gave written statements under oath. We offered that. They want to pull us. Why did they want to pull us into this? To divert attention from President Trump. This is not complicated. This
She
is
said they diverted attention from Trump, guys.
so obvious, and they keep trying to divert. Look at this shiny object. We're going to have the Clintons, even Hillary Clinton, who never met the guy. We're going to have her there. Let's focus on what's really happening here. You have an attorney general and a Justice Department attempting to hide information that should be made public.
She said they hiding information that could be. Man, what are y'all thinking about what Hillary is putting down? Let me know.
I just want to ask you, though, because as many people have said, being in the Epstein files does not mean that you've done anything wrong. But speaking for yourself and for your family, what was your reaction when you saw some of the material that has been released? I'm thinking, for example, of images of your husband apparently in a hot tub in a swimming pool on Epstein's plane. What was your reaction to that? And do you know
Somebody
the
said every rational person knows that Hillary is guilty. Wow.
context surrounding some of those images?
Absolutely. And it wasn't a hot tub on a plane. It was one of the stops they made to look at philanthropic and charitable work that my husband has done, saving literally millions of lives
Oh,
around the
wow.
world.
He was saving lives
literally
on that
millions of-
plane. God,
Do
listen.
you know the context surrounding
Listen.
some of those images?
Absolutely. And it wasn't a hot tub on a plane. It was one.
She said it wasn't a hot tub on the plane, guys. He was traveling around doing good deeds, saving millions of dollars doing charitable work with Epstein. That's what she said.
Context surrounding some of those images?
Absolutely. And it wasn't a hot tub on a plane. It was one of the stops they made to look at philanthropic and charitable work that my husband has done, saving literally millions of lives around the world. It turned out that was done long before there was any public awareness and certainly any conviction of any crime by Jeffrey Epstein. So it was a short period of time that was in pursuit of charitable philanthropic work. A lot of people were traveling at the same time. Many staff members, guests, other supporters of the foundation. If Bill and I had a penny for every person we've taken pictures with, we would be extremely rich today.
Let's move on to what we're seeing. You've just come from the Munich Security Conference, and a lot of people are talking about the idea of a new world order. I'm interested in your thoughts. In terms of transatlantic relations between Europe and the United States, do you think they have permanently shifted, that there is no going back to the way things were before?
Well, I think time will tell whether we are going to support the rule of law, support the strong alliances that were forged through and after World War II, create an area of peace and security in the transatlantic or not. And as I said in Munich, I think that comes down to whether or not the people in America turn out Donald Trump and Republicans who are more concerned about Putin than they are about democracy, and whether Europe stands against efforts to undermine the ties amongst European nations in favor of the rule of law, in favor of peace and security, and against Putin. So I'm hoping that the answers are the right answers. I'm hoping that people in Europe and people in the United States will stand up for universal values that have actually protected our peace and security now for more than 80
Hey, Belinda.
years.
When you look at the United States,
Shout out to my mods. I see y'all in here, man. Make sure y'all double tapping that screen. Get the lights up.
do you still say it is a country that can be seen as the leader of the free world?
Well, it appears that Donald Trump wants to be the leader, but not necessarily of a free world. He is very enamored of Vladimir Putin, who is a dictator,
He's
brutal
also criticised him
dictator.
at times.
Donald Trump has never criticized Putin. You can go
His
back.
handling of
No,
Ukraine.
you can go back and look, because many of us have done it, looking for one moment. You know, he said, come on, he needs to solve this. He needs to. And what do we now hear? That he and Putin want to profit off the death and misery of the Ukrainian people. So is that a leader? Well, I suppose if you count it in terms of military power, we are still the leader, but are we the leader in values? Are we the leader in bringing people together? Are we the leader in trying to create hope and opportunity? I think that's an open question.
But Donald Trump's pressure has led, for example, to Europe spending more on defense, including here in Germany, which is something Americans have wanted for a long time. So would you actually count that as a success?
Well, there was a lot of pressure on the Europeans from previous presidents, and including in Trump's first term. And I think the real credit for that goes to Vladimir Putin. I think Vladimir Putin's aggressive behavior, starting with Georgia, Crimea, and then the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, has woken up the Europeans, unlike anything anybody else could ever tell them. Obviously, Trump has, pushed that. But it's the Europeans who finally have realized that Vladimir Putin is attempting to undermine European security. And
What's up,
left to
Samika?
his own devices, I believe, along with many other security experts, will threaten the independence of the Baltic states, Poland, and elsewhere. So this is not just rhetorical push from the American president. This is the cold reality that here in the 21st century, we are dealing with a dictator who wants to dominate and control not just Ukraine,
She called Trump a dictator. What y'all think about that?
but Europe.
My final question is on artificial intelligence. You believe that this should be regulated more firmly. How can that be done when you're looking at a kind of patchwork potentially of regulation across the globe?
I think if we don't regulate it, we will wake up as we are now with social media and regret it deeply. I think social media has had a very negative effect
Appreciate it, TNT.
on our children. We have evidence of that. Evidence, sadly, that comes mostly from the tech companies because they follow very closely how to keep our kids addicted to social media. I applaud Macron in France. I applaud Sanchez in Spain, Australia, and others who have woken up to the danger social media poses. It also undermines democracy because it undermines trust, it undermines unity, it undermines common effort, and I think it will be on steroids with artificial intelligence.
How can artificial intelligence,
Well,
if
look-
that's what you think should happen, how can that be done on a global scale?
Because, look at,
I mean, do you need like a UN type body to do that?
well, it has to start with individual nations as they are now with social media. But remember, the European Union is the only serious regulator of technology in the world right now.
And you disagree with some people's view that that's very onerous, the regulation that they've
When we first started talking about putting seatbelts into cars, because we had so many deaths from car accidents, the car makers complained, drivers complained, everybody complained. Who wants to have these straps over our body? We should be free in our cars. And the regulators said, we're going to save lives. Now, I don't think Elon Musk should determine the future of either our children or civilization. Of course he doesn't like it. But the Digital Services Act that the European Union passed is the only comprehensive effort to try to rein it in. Now we're looking at artificial intelligence, where even some of the creators of this new phenomenon have no idea what it's going to do to us. They know it's going to cost jobs. They know that it's going to kind of mess with people's heads.
Say AI is going to take over, guys. It's going to cost jobs. A great loss for people to be able to go to work dealing with AI. Y'all know AI is most definitely everywhere, guys. I most definitely can see it taking over.
Through delusion and hallucination and all the rest that we already see happening. But they don't know whether it's actually going to control our institutions. Can it take over our air traffic control system? Can it take over our electric grid? Can it do further damage to our democracy and our ability to really govern ourselves? We don't know the answers to that. And people who were at the birth of artificial intelligence, like Geoffrey Hinton and others who were among the original creators, are all saying, wait a minute, slow down. This is not just a big technological change. This is an existential change in how human beings are going to be treated and treat each other and what's going to happen to us. So I think it's a terrible example of negligence not to try to get into it and understand it better and require the tech companies to help us figure out what is the best way to make sure that the worst of artificial intelligence doesn't happen.
All right. So that was basically Hillary, talking about Trump, saying that he's a dictator, and she wants to do a public, I guess like testimony. She don't want it to be private. She said with the private stuff, she's going to say a lot of things that they ain't going to like. It's best that they do it publicly. Wow. Hey, I'm just saying. All right. So, when she did that, people most definitely had a response, man. Let's see how they were feeling about what Hillary said. Let's rewind this a little bit.
And Jesse Jackson. But we reported yesterday on the letter sent to Congress on Saturday by Attorney General Pam Bondi. The Justice Department has released all of those files, claiming it has fulfilled.
The DOJ says they have released all of the Epstein files. Do y'all believe it? It says DOJ sends letter to Congress with list of people named in the Epstein files, including Trump and others. But keep in mind that they said that they released all of the Epstein files. They released like 3 million of them. It was supposed to be like 3 million left. But then Pam Bondi sent in a letter that said they had released them all. So where did the other 3 million go? Your guess is as good as mine.
Its obligations under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. The letter also outlined its justification for the redactions made in the released files, explaining they were limited to victim privacy, including personally identifiable information and medical details. And it included a list of more than 300, quote, politically exposed people.
300 politically exposed people. They released a whole list of names that got people upset. The DOJ did.
Whose names appear in the files in varying contexts, including Donald Trump, former President Bill Clinton, and other politicians, business people, and artists. When asked about the Epstein files aboard Air Force One last night, President Trump, the released materials proved he had been cleared of any wrongdoing.
What's up, my mother's keeper?
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein.
Trump said he got nothing to hide. He has been exonerated. He got nothing to do with the Epstein files. What? They said your name was in there about 7,000 times.
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that they'd find just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein was fighting that I don't get elected with some author, a sleazebag, by the way, and I've been totally exonerated. No.
Trump say he been totally exonerated.
They're getting pulled in, and that's their problem. I don't know. They're going to have to see what happens. But I watched her in Munich, and she seriously has Trump derangement syndrome. I've been totally exonerated on Epstein, and it's really interesting because they've been pulled in. Think of it. They've been pulled in. Clinton and many other Democrats have been pulled in.
As for the Clintons, Hillary Clinton is accusing the Trump administration of slow walking and covering up the release of the Epstein files. In a new interview, Hillary Clinton told the BBC the White House must, quote, get the files out. She agreed that everyone asked to testify should do so too.
Let's go.
I think everybody should testify who is asked to testify. I just want it to be fair. I want everybody treated the same way. That's not true for my husband and me because other witnesses were asked to testify. They gave written statements under oath. We offered that. They want to pull us. Why did they want to pull us into this? To divert attention from President Trump.
This interview comes
say
as
they
both
trying
Clinton and
to
her
hit him
husband,
with the
former President Bill
okey-doke.
Clinton, are set to appear
She
before
say
the
they
House
trying to hit him with
Oversight
the
Committee at the
okey-doke.
end of this month after a planned contempt vote was shelved. Bill Clinton, several times in the files, was acquainted with Epstein, but says he cut off contact 2 decades ago.
Now, remember, Hillary said that her husband was aboard that plane doing charitable work on Epstein's, with Epstein. He was doing charitable work, saving people millions of dollars. That's what Hillary said about
Neither
Bill.
Clinton has been accused of any wrongdoing, and both have denied knowledge of Epstein's offenses at the time. So, Joe, again, here you have James Comer and other Republicans walking into this where this will be thrown wide open. Obviously, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton want to testify in public, so it really can be out in the open. Still working on that, but as of now, behind closed doors. But James Comer going back and picking at this scab, a thing you heard you heard President Trump say, I want to move on. I've been exonerated. I don't know that you would use that term.
Trump say he's been exonerated
of wrongdoing specifically here, but he wants to move on. The president wants to move on. James Comer and other Republicans seem intent for some reason on keeping this alive.
Well, I mean, they want to keep it alive and go after a president who hasn't been in the Oval Office in a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
And they want to ignore the person who's sitting in the White House right now, who I believe has far more mentions in the Epstein files
than anybody.
Than does Bill Clinton.
Yes.
And this whole idea that, yeah, so there are Democrats' names that are in here, no doubt about it. But the idea that somehow it's all Democrats and that the Trump administration has been exonerated, I mean, that's just a joke. You've got, the next Fed chair is in the files if he gets appointed, voted in, confirmed. You have the Commerce Secretary lying time and time and time again about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and getting busted.
I think if they put Hillary in a closed meeting, she gonna expose everything. That's why she said it's best to do it public. If they put her behind them closed doors, I think Hillary gonna expose everything.
And still holding onto his job. And you wonder, why are they protecting all these rich and powerful men that were hanging around Jeffrey Epstein? Why are there so many connections with Jeffrey Epstein in this administration?
Let's go, Dominique.
It really just doesn't really make any sense, does it? Doesn't make good sense. If there was the idea of getting as far away from Jeffrey Epstein as possible, then there would have been moves they would have made. The Commerce Secretary wouldn't be there. Other people wouldn't be there. Elon Musk would have been called out. You can go down the list And Ro Khanna is right. You really do have this Epstein class that the Trump administration is trying to protect, and they're trying to protect them actively. When you have Pam Bondi coming out lying, saying, "Oh, we've released everything," that's just a lie, and everybody knows that's a lie.
Say Pam Bondi lying about releasing everything.
No accountability.
I told y'all there was still 3 million files unaccounted for, but she said she released everything.
For the rich and powerful that are ensnarled in these files, whether you're talking about a lot of people, it seems, in Donald Trump's orbit, or you're talking about a contributor at CBS News, which again, you just talk about a joke. Keeping that guy connected with CBS News, oh my, it's unbelievable. And then you look out in Los Angeles, you have Casey Wasserman, that for some reason, that Olympic committee didn't boot off after they read.
Yep, Jay-Z.
I mean,
Jay-Z name most definitely in there too. It's most definitely in there.
The level
Pusha T name off in there as well.
of toleration for these rich and powerful men who were close friends with Jeffrey Epstein, or talked about how much they loved them or how much they missed them when they weren't talking to them, or Ghislaine Maxwell. It really is extraordinary that here we are in 2026. I was saying this a decade ago. I don't understand. I still don't understand this conspiracy theory to cover up, especially from the very political movement that said if they got elected, they were going to reveal the truth about the Epstein files. And all we've gotten is cover.
And there it is right there. I seen somebody just say why Biden didn't do it. Then you hear he just said, and I've said this before, that if Trump and them wouldn't have been saying that during their campaign, if Trump wouldn't have never got on that interview and said, when he was asked by the reporter, if you were presented the opportunity, would you release the Epstein files? And Trump said, yes, I would. And then on his campaign trail, they talked about releasing the Epstein files. That's why everybody is on their case about releasing the Epstein files, because they said that they would. They brought up Epstein. That's why people may have been worried about it the whole time, but they got more worried about it when Trump got in office and he had already said that he'll release them. That's why it's such a big deal with the Trump administration to release the Epstein files. They wasn't doing it to Joe because Joe didn't campaign on it. He didn't speak on it. He didn't say that he was going to release them or none of that. But Trump and them did. That's why people expect for them to release it.
They were going to reveal the truth about the Epstein files. And all we've gotten is cover up and redactions of people that say extraordinarily grotesque things about young girls, young women, and women in general, whose names are redacted from the file. Why is the Trump administration protecting these rich and powerful men and the grotesque things that they're sending to Jeffrey Epstein? What purpose does that serve, Pam Bondi? What purpose? Why do you keep protecting rich, powerful men? Why are their names redacted? Mike, it makes no good sense. And if what Donald Trump is saying was true, well, then all those names would be redacted and all the files would come out. But they keep doing this. They could have gotten this over with 6 to 9 months ago. They keep dragging it out. They keep covering up, and they keep thinking people are going to just walk away from it. They're not until they're all released, and they stop trying to protect rich, powerful men.
Belinda say money.
The string on this story, when you start to pull it, is endless, and it's important, and it's all going to come out eventually. And to use the president's phrase, as Willie just pointed out, last night on the plane, he said he's been exonerated by these files being released. But he also has a law firm called the Department of Justice, which has control over all of these files. And if he wants to be completely exonerated, he would order today that all of the files be dumped out right now. It would take months to go through them, obviously, the redactions and the non-redactions. But at the core of the story is something that is never going to go away until it's fully explained. And at the core of this story is how one man who is now dead, committed suicide in jail.
Allegedly.
Control.
There's a lot of people that still feel like he alive somewhere on the island. That's what they said. You know, that's what they said. I'm just saying, a lot of people feel like Epstein is still alive.
And had access to so many powerful people across a couple of different continents.
Right.
Europe, the United States. What happened? How did it happen?
Adam
How
say
did
he willing to
connect
bet his
himself
last
to
dollar
all of these
Epstein's still
powerful,
alive?
wealthy people who then relied on him for maybe sexual favors, maybe financial advice, or whatever. How does that happen?
So many rich, powerful men are protected right now in this. But Frank Foer, you know who's not protected? The victims, many of whom were exposed again in these files. These victims who have been fighting for justice every day for years. And again, they get re-traumatized.
We need 8 more likes to get the likes to 100, guys. Double tap that screen if you have not. If you're on a mobile device, double tap your screen or click those 3 dots in the right-hand corner. Hit that thumbs up, guys. Hit the like button. It helps out the channel. Appreciate it.
With the release of 3 million documents, which again protects men, but doesn't protect many of them.
Right. It's morally despicable that victims are the ones who end up suffering when there is this lack, as everybody's been saying, of moral accountability or uneven moral accountability. And in the end, you know, part of the lack of moral accountability connects to kind of the broader issues that we're talking about in the Trump era, which is that
And some of those survivors, this picture right here, they were very upset with Pam Bundy, man. When she did that testimony in front of Congress or whatever, they were mad. You know, a lot of their names, people who didn't even want to be basically plastered out there with their real names, the DOJ. One of the victims said in the interview that she felt like the DOJ done it on purpose.
Exposed in these files isn't just the kind of the trafficking of young women, the criminal trafficking of young women. It's the self-dealing of an elite class that's trading favors in a corrupt way. And of course, corruption is not just the master narrative of our times, it's the master narrative of the Trump administration. And I believe that our kind of inability to hold people morally to account really for the corruption that's exposed here is very much connected to our lack of outrage and our inability to effectively deal with the kind of the world historic levels of corruption that are transpiring on a daily basis in this administration.
David Drucker, the perversion of justice in this case was perhaps best captured in that image we saw a few seconds ago of Pam Bondi refusing to acknowledge or apologize to the victims standing behind her, wouldn't even turn around, look down at her notes, even smirked at one point. There's the story. Her job literally is to protect the victims. Instead, she appears to be anyway protecting the president of the United States. So the question to you, David, is how is this playing in the MAGA universe? Many prominent members of whom were behind pushing this for years and years and years and saying this is a foundational story for us. We want to know about this cabal, this global cabal of elites who protect each other, and some of them perhaps committing pedophilia with these young girls on Jeffrey Epstein's island, and now to have a Justice Department and an administration desperately trying to turn the page and walk away from it without
There's some nasty rich people out there, guys. Some super nasty rich people.
Full reckoning. How is that playing among Donald Trump's supporters?
Well, look, I think the main fissure in the very beginning was the fact that the president didn't want to release the files, and you had a battle among some Republicans on Capitol Hill over whether or not to do this. I think one of the reasons we're even where we are now is because Democrats in the House of Representatives realized for all sorts of reasons that it was a good idea for them to join forces with the few Republicans that sort of hail from Trump's MAGA base, like Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few others, and join forces to push to get these files out. The administration desperately tried to keep them from being released. Speaker Mike Johnson tried to keep them from being released. When they realized the dam was about to break, everybody gets on board. And of course, they're acting like this was the plan all along. Right. So I think the real question is, with the files released, I think a lot of the air has been let out of the balloon in terms of the pressure from the president's base to deal with this. I think the question now is, and we don't know, Willie, is what I'm getting at, is, over time, is that corner of the right, the populist right, going to now be as sort of pushy, if you will, for people to go through these files with a fine-tooth comb and to redact and to unredact a lot of the information that has been hidden? Because an issue like this just doesn't die, right? It just doesn't go away. And with the Clintons about to testify, particularly a former president, if this happens, it's going to set the precedent for other former presidents to testify. And 3 years from now, Donald Trump is going to be a former president, constitutionally barred from running for re-election, and cannot sort of hide behind I'm a candidate, they're trying to derail my campaign. And if House Democrats have anything to say about it, or Senate Democrats for that matter, they're going to ask him to come to Capitol Hill and testify. So I just think this is going to be an ongoing story, and it's hard to know, all the twists and turns.
All right, so they kind of broke down what was going on, said how they felt about what Hillary had to say. Yeah, man, it's a lot going on, man. Here go a little bit on these 300 names that was released in the Epstein that the DOJ put out.
Bondi claims the DOJ released all the Epstein files and even listed out 300 names. But we're seeing blowback saying that is not the end of the story. So we're going to go through some of the notable people named to understand what exactly they're
connected. Let's get into some of these 300 names. Make sure y'all double tapping that screen. Get the likes up, guys.
Is, if any, to the accused child sex trafficker. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Well, after Attorney General Pam Bondi's battle in front of the House Judiciary Committee last week, where she was grilled on all matters Jeffrey Epstein, namely regarding redactions and whether there were in fact other co-conspirators or not. In fact, we did a whole sidebar on that. Bondi then sent a letter out to lawmakers over the weekend, saying that all the Epstein files have been released. And most importantly,
do y'all believe that all of the files have been released? Because I don't think so.
Listed out over 300 high-profile names. Now, at first glance, you might be saying, wait a second, did she just release the Epstein list?
All of the names.
The list of Epstein's alleged co-conspirators, people who allegedly engaged in criminal activity, the abuse of young girls for years? That's why we have to put into context what this is about, okay? Because I'm going to go over the letter, I'm going to go over the names, and try to make sense of it. Because a few things here, as we have previously reported, the DOJ indicated that there is no central Jeffrey Epstein client list that he had prepared. There's no little black book for people who knew about or
That's a scary picture right there, man. I don't know why they took that.
Participated in criminal activity and that he kept as a form of blackmail. This is not surprising. I never thought that there was anything like this. There's no evidence of that. There is an address book that we've talked about here on Sidebar before. It's not the same thing. And to be clear, I'm going to say this over and over again. Just because someone is mentioned in the files or mentioned in an address book doesn't mean that they knew about or engaged in criminal activity. So let me briefly summarize the letter, and then I'll get into the names, okay? So in a letter that was dated this past Saturday, February 14th, this is addressed to the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chairman Chuck Grassley, Ranking Member Dick Durbin, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, and Ranking Member Jamie Raskin. The letter explains that under the newly passed Epstein Files Transparency Act, the DOJ has to explain everything that was released. And remember, this was an act that said, you got to turn over everything in your possession. So one of the things they have to do under the law is they have to...
Yeah, I did hear that Elvis was even on the list, guys. They had Elvis in there.
Explain what was released. They have to explain a summary of all the redactions and the legal basis for them. And this is the key. Quote, a list of all government officials and politically exposed persons named or referenced in the released materials. Okay, they had to list this out. So first, some context here. Pam Bondi explained that they released all the files in their possession regarding 9 categories. Basically, anything about Epstein, anything about Ghislaine Maxwell, flight logs or travel records, associated government officials and entities, immunity deals, internal Department of Justice communications regarding not charging someone or prosecuting someone, anything about destroying Epstein data and materials, and any materials surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's death. That's basically a summary of what they had to release. Now, in terms of what was withheld from public disclosure, the letter explains that there are those records that were subject to certain privileges, like attorney-client privilege, but the letter made clear that no records were withheld that were merely just embarrassing to someone, and that they tried to remove personally identifiable information about victims, although, as I'm sure you heard from various reporting, there were allegations that the DOJ failed to 100% do that. And then we get this, quote, "Below is a list of all government officials and politically exposed persons named or referenced in the released materials," although the letter explains that politically exposed person, not really well defined. But there is a footnote of the list that says, "Any omissions from the list are unintentional and, as explained in the previous letters to Congress, a result of the volume and speed with which the department complied with the act. Individuals whose names were redacted for law enforcement sensitive purposes are not included," meaning if there's an ongoing investigation. Now, I'm not going to read you all 300 names. We're going to put it up on the screen here, but this is an example of some names. Jay-Z, Beyonce, Steve Bannon, George.
There y'all go right there. Jay-Z name is most definitely in there. Beyonce name is in there. Steve Bannon, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton, guys. That's 4 names right there. So for all of y'all who was saying, "Oh man, Jay-Z name," yeah, there go Jay-Z name right there with the rest of these names with all 300. He in the 300.
W. Bush, Bill and Hillary Clinton, George Clooney, Ron DeSantis, Richard Branson, Fidel Castro, Kurt Cobain, Mick Jagger, Cory Booker, Jeff Bezos, Joe and Jill Biden.
Kurt Cobain, Lord have mercy. Hold on. We got Kurt Cobain,
Steve Bannon, George W. Bush, Bill and Hillary Clinton, George Clooney.
Richard Branson, Fidel Castro. Fidel, that's the Cuba guy, ain't it? Fidel Castro, Kurt Cobain, Mick Jagger. Lord have mercy. Joe and Jill Biden. They name in there too.
Ron DeSantis, Richard Branson, Fidel Castro, Kurt Cobain, Mick Jagger, Cory Booker, Jeff Bezos, Joe and Jill Biden, Michael Cohen, James Comey, David Copperfield, Robert De Niro, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Jared Kushner, Janis Joplin, Donald.
Well, this is like anybody that was anybody. J.D. Vance name on there. Ivanka Trump. Let's go. Donald Trump. Janis Joplin. Lord, Robert De Niro. That's my guy Scarface. What is going on? Golly, y'all. Wow. Anybody that's anybody is on this list.
Trump, Mark Zuckerberg, Peter Thiel, Ivanka Trump, J.D. Vance, Chris Tucker, Rupert Murdoch, Gavin Newsom.
Oh, man. Not Smokey. Chris Tucker. Lord. Wow. Elvis. Elon. Obama, everybody, they made sure they put everybody's name in there.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Elvis Presley, Brett Ratner, Alyssa Milano, Elon Musk, Larry Nassar, Barack Obama, Tucker Carlson, Rosie O'Donnell, Bill Gates, Rudy Giuliani, Nikki Haley, Leon Black, Woody Allen, Alex Jones, Michael Jackson. Okay, so that's just a sampling of the names. Obviously, there are a lot more. Now, I'm going to get to what this means, but before I do that, real quick, gotta give a shout out to today's sponsor.
Well, that's crazy. Anybody who anybody in there.
You're good to go for 10 points from over a decade of research. Try /. A lot of, after you purchase, support our. Someone who has been particularly vocal in response to this letter is Representative Nancy Mace. She went on X, said, quote, "Despite the memo released by DOJ last night."
I don't know. I didn't see Diddy's name. I'm pretty sure if it was in there, they would have put it up there. It would have been up there highlighted with the rest of the names. Yeah, Michael Jackson was in there as well. Yeah, he was on the list as well. Whoopi Goldberg in there as well.
Not all the Epstein files have been released, and the excuses provided for not releasing all the files will not hold up in a court of law. This isn't going away until people go to jail. There's another one. Where are all the logs from the receptionist station at Epstein's New York home? They kept track of underage children and people in power coming and going. Here's another one. Where is all the audio and video from the Lolita Express, meaning Jeffrey Epstein jet? Then you had Representative Ro Khanna, quote, "The DOJ is once again purposefully muddying the waters on who was a predator and who was mentioned in an email. To have Janis Joplin, who died when Epstein was 17, in the same list as Larry Nassar, who went to prison for the sexual abuse of hundreds of young women and child pornography, with no clarification of how either was mentioned in the files, is absurd. Release the full file, stop protecting predators, redact only the survivors' names." So why are all of these people listed? And I really want to focus more on names we haven't talked about as much. Like we've already discussed in previous episodes of Sidebar, the Clintons, President Trump, director Woody Allen's connection to Epstein, Elon Musk's back and forth with Epstein or his people regarding meeting up. Actually, I'll tell you what, before I even get to other names, one more thing about Musk that I thought was interesting, and this was outlined in a Fortune article. The files allegedly reveal a scheme by Epstein to get close to Musk's brother, Kimball, and even tried to handpick a woman for him. Like you have this email from an Epstein associate, Boris Nikolic, to Epstein in 2012 that says, just talk to Kimball. His actual birthday is on Thursday night, although his party is on Saturday. Kimball, Elon, and few of their closest friends will go out that night. I told him that you will join us as well. Also, I told him that you were coming with Redacted and that he might want to ditch his ex or current-to-be. He said yes and is looking so much forward. So please prepare Redacted. She might like Elon as well.
Wow.
And then you see how Epstein even tried to seemingly leverage that to get close to Elon Musk, where Epstein wrote Musk in one message, I will be in New York for next week. We'll see your brother in his new romance. And of course, you have people like Bill Gates, Microsoft's founder, already well
They
established.
tripped me out when they said that about Bill Gates having an STD and trying to get some pills to get rid of it so his wife didn't find out. Wow.
That he had a connection to Epstein. There are photos of him in connection to Epstein. I talked about this in a previous sidebar. It was reported that there was this bizarre email where Epstein alleged that Gates needed medication to treat an STI from having sex with Russian girls. Bill Gates has denied all of this. But anyway, giving an idea about the big names. So what about the other names? Now I'm going to give you the caveat that is laid out by Pam Bondi in her letter. It says, quote, names appear in the files released under the acts in a wide variety of contexts. For example, some individuals had extensive direct email contact with Epstein or Maxwell, while other individuals are mentioned only in a portion of a document, including press reporting that on its face is unrelated to the Epstein and Maxwell matters. Like, for example, you might have somebody like Elvis Presley, obviously no connection to Jeffrey Epstein.
Elvis. I told y'all they put Elvis in the files. So wow.
But then you get a Prince Andrew, who we, by the way, talked about extensively in another episode of Sidebar where we talked about the royals' connection to Epstein. So that is what I want to provide context and explanation for, because listing these out, people might jump to conclusions, but let me try to explain it. So, for example, a name like rock singer Janis Joplin. You know why she's in there? She was referenced in a mass email that BCC'd Jeffrey Epstein. And in the email listed music of the week. Quote, Janis Joplin, Big Brother and the Holding Company, Piece of My Heart. Seemingly innocuous, although interesting because there appears to be a redacted line underneath this sentence. What about Nirvana's Kurt Cobain? Why is he in there? So in an informational email that was sent to Epstein from popular in your network, info@twitter.com, one of the things it seems to recommend for him is an article remembering Kurt Cobain on the 22nd anniversary of his death. So as you can see, it's not like Joplin or Cobain.
Oh, so everybody in there, like they said, everybody hasn't did anything. They got Kurt Cobain in there because his name was mentioned for something else. Just like that's crazy. But everybody who is anybody's name is on this list, even Elvis.
Were somehow connected to Epstein. Again, wouldn't even make sense given the time frame. And then you have somebody like former President Barack Obama, where from what I could see, it was just a lot of articles about Obama in the files release, like news articles. I didn't find any direct ties between Epstein and the former president. Same kind of thing with Bruce Springsteen.
Adam, boy, you must don't know how I operate over here, bro. You know what I'm saying? It took you that long to type that in my chat. Guess what? Don't get deported, bro. I'm most definitely just reacting to what's going on. If you don't like it, go find you somewhere else. You got something smart to say, I'm going to deport you faster than Trump deporting immigrants. Now, what you got to say about that, sir? Talk about what's on the screen. Don't talk to me.
Mentions of him are about tickets and concerts and email blasts. So as you go through this list, and maybe you're going to go on the DOJ's library yourself, just keep that in mind. But what about somebody like actor George Clooney? Now, this is interesting because on one hand, you have Clooney mentioned in certain aspects. Like there was an email sent to Jeffrey Epstein in 2011 saying, quote, reminder, today is the day Peggy was hoping you could be in Venice with her for the Clooney opening. Pacino to be there, seemingly in reference to Al Pacino. Now, Peggy seems to be in reference to Peggy Siegel.
I just told you, bro. Adam, I ain't your bro. I don't even know you. But I will deport you.
Big-time publicist, frequent communication with or about Epstein. We mentioned this before, but there was an allegation that she even tried to do damage control for Epstein when all these allegations were coming out. But then you have this email titled, Toronto Film Festival, this is back in 2009, from Peggy Siegel to Epstein, where it says, had a great time in Toronto, saw everyone, George Clooney, Michael Douglas, Jeffrey Rush, Drew Barrymore, etc., saw all studio execs, more important. How about this one, from Siegel to Epstein from 2011? This email to George Clooney gives you an idea how successful my Venice trip was. Accomplished so much. Hung and discussed their work with George Clooney, Kate Winslet, Keira Knightley, Colin Firth, Al Pacino, on and on. We have working on all the hot films. Have to write my story now. Miss you. Want to see you when in New York City. XOXO Peggy. So not really sure what to make of that, unless, of course, she's just sharing with him her exploits, or, he likes being involved or connected to the rich and powerful and wants to make connections, and she might be the conduit. I don't know. But then there's this one we got to talk about. So someone writes Epstein in 2010, quote, can I have a muse same as George Clooney? In fact, what about George Clooney? Epstein writing back, in your present position,
George Clooney name in the files, Lord.
it should be George Clowney. Now, at the bottom of the email string, it says Peter Mandelson, somebody we've talked about before, the British politician who came under a lot of fire for emails that surfaced with him and Epstein, particularly celebrating and congratulating him when he was released from prison after his conviction on Florida state charges of solicitation of prostituting a minor. That's a little weird. Then you have this email, too, from Epstein to someone back in 2014 with the subject line, Clooney in Copenhagen, quote, now I know Copenhagen has interesting girls. Ask Gianni if you should see agencies on his behalf. This is what Epstein writes back. So I don't know what to make of these Clooney emails per se, but the actor has never been accused or implicated in wrongdoing in connection with Jeffrey Epstein. But obviously I got to mention this. And then you got these notable people that have a more direct connection with Epstein, like actor Chris Tucker. Okay, you have this email from 2013.
Lord have mercy, they done got Smokey, y'all. They done got my boy Chris Tucker done got caught up in this nonsense.
In connection with Jeffrey Epstein, but obviously I got to mention this. And then you got these notable people that have a more direct connection with Epstein.
And he said more direct.
Like actor.
Look at my old Smokey, man. You done got yourself caught up in all of this. Chris Tucker done got himself caught up in all of this. Wow.
Chris Tucker. Okay, you have this email from 2013 that reads, Chris Tucker will be stopping by to see J.E. sometime before his show tonight. No exact time was given. And we already know there were photos of Tucker in connection with Epstein, like there's one with him and Ghislaine Maxwell that has been circulated quite a bit. What about Jay-Z? So Jay-Z presents an interesting one to follow. There is a 2019 FBI crisis intake memo where someone back in July of 2019 apparently called the FBI Operations Center to identify herself as a victim of sexual abuse by Jeffrey Epstein and others. And later on it says, quote, in approximately 1996, Redacted resided with Redacted in Redacted.
Now this is I think this is the one that got Jay-Z and Pusha T in it, as well as Harvey Weinstein, I think is his name, Weinstein, whatever. This is where Jay-Z, I brought y'all this when it first came out. A lot of y'all didn't believe me, but hey man, here's Law and Crime, a very reputable news reporting channel themselves, and they saying, hey man, what Behead told y'all is most definitely true.
An unknown man abducted Redacted from her home when she later awoke in the presence of Harvey Weinstein and Sean Carter, Jay-Z, while Weinstein had, and I'm not going to be too graphic here, sexually abused her. Redacted believed she was in Epstein's mansion in Florida. Weinstein, of course, is the disgraced movie producer who was convicted of sex crimes. But I will tell you, this is very similar to a range of tips that authorities were receiving in the wake of Epstein's allegations that were potentially never corroborated. I mean, we discussed the same thing multiple times on previous episodes of Sidebar regarding the unsubstantiated sexual abuse allegations against President Trump, too. Just something to keep in mind. But names like Harvey Weinstein, not a great connection. Neither is Bill Cosby, okay?
Oh, Bill Cosby was in there? Oh, man, I didn't know Bill had made it.
He, too, is mentioned in the Epstein files. This email to Epstein from 2013, quote, Rich Barnett ran into Mr. Cosby's houseman on 71st Street. The houseman said, unfortunately, Mr. Cosby will be out west somewhere in California when you're holding the dinner on the 23rd. Otherwise, he would have loved to come. So this idea that Epstein just loved to be affiliated and associated with the rich and famous, and as we know, Cosby would later be accused and go to trial on sexual assault claims. This one was surprising. Former TV show personality Dr. Oz, who's an official in the current Trump administration.
Dr. Oz is in the Epstein files? Wow.
So there is an email from 2016 from Mehmet and Lisa Oz, that's his wife. And now remember, this is after Epstein's conviction on solicitation of prostitution charges of a minor. And this email is to Epstein, and it is actually an invite to Mehmet and Lisa Oz's Valentine's celebration. How about this one? Sent to Epstein in 2010. Rudy Giuliani could see you tomorrow, either at 12 or at 4:45.
This is
I'm not
crazy.
sure what time you arrive tomorrow, but I am thinking the 4:45 is better. Again, have to make the caveat, just because he was invited places or had meetings with places doesn't mean that these people are guilty of anything, okay? Why is Robert De Niro listed? Well, Epstein receives an email in 2013 that reads, "Hi, Jeffrey. Called redacted, but she never called back. Have been seeing redacted once in a while. Have lots to tell you. Call me when you," I think it says, "set up coffee deal with De Niro. Launched in Whole Foods under Grace of Rwanda. Best, Jonathan." So maybe trying to meet Robert De Niro, possibly another De Niro. There are more about the actor, though, too. So you go back to Peggy Siegel. How about this one, 2017, when she wrote, "Dear Jeffrey, I am volunteering to help the New York Film Society of Lincoln Center with their spring gala called the 44th Annual Chaplin Awards, honoring Robert De Niro on May 8th. The presenters include Whoopi Goldberg, Meryl Streep, Martin Scorsese, Ben Stiller, and Harvey Keitel. See attached invite. I need to talk to you about the possibility of you buying a table that I can fill with movie stars, and hopefully you can attend." Now, Epstein was also on an email blast from an account that was set up for Jane Rosenthal and Robert De Niro back in 2015 regarding the Tribeca Film Festival, which the actor helped to found. But as you'll see, it's just an example of his connections to powerful people. And while I couldn't find, let's say, a direct email between Robert De Niro and Jeffrey Epstein, let's talk about Mark Zuckerberg for a second, okay? Facebook. How about this?
The creator of Facebook is in the Epstein files.
Message, quote, "Leslie thanks. The things I discussed with Jeffrey were for he and Woody," seemingly Woody Allen, "to visit Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook or for Mark to join them at dinner. I've sent Mark the options and I'm waiting to hear back." How about this? "Andrea, could you also please pass along the below link to Mark from Jeffrey? Thanks." Again, this is Leslie, Jeffrey Epstein's assistant. How about this one? "Here are the details for the Sunday dinner. Attendees are," and it lists out Mark Zuckerberg, Peter Thiel, Jeffrey Epstein. There are more names on there too. I mentioned Hakeem Jeffries, so getting into the political space. Seems at the very least, Epstein was kind of keeping a careful eye on the Democratic politician out of New York. He was forwarded an article about the rising star in 2013. Epstein also received an email, could be an email blast. It says, "Dear Jeffrey, I hope you received an invite to the party that Congressman Hakeem Jeffries this Wednesday night in Manhattan. Comptroller-elect Scott Stringer will be leading the celebrations in what promises to be a great night." Again, didn't find any direct connection or direct email between Hakeem Jeffrey.
I remember when they was telling him, "You're in the files too. You're in the files too." Lord, man, there's so many powerful people in them files, man. It is sickening to think about what these rich people be doing with their money, man.
And Jeffrey Epstein. What about George Soros, the investor? Email sent to Epstein in 2011. "Thank you, just landed in New York, was terrific. Flew over your island, coming back from Necker to St. Thomas. George Soros and Richard Branson loved your question about dictators hiding money." Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. You have this email from 2018 to Jeffrey Epstein where it reads, "Jeff Bezos at SMU Friday, worth seeing if I'm not still sick?" Epstein replies, "Yes, you can say hello from me." So was there a connection between Bezos and Epstein? Also this one, from Peggy Siegel to Epstein in 2009. "Just left Ghislaine's townhouse, after party for film. Bill Clinton and Jeff Bezos were there. Gene Pagoni, director, Mirror, etc." So you can see his connections in some way, but I will say the names that really prove to be pivotal and come up a lot are people like Leon Black, the investor and former CEO of Apollo Global Management. So, for example, there is an email from May 26, 2023. The names are redacted, but the subject line is E-Notes Trafficking Leon Black Call. And this apparently is a call with Gian Christensen from Wigdor LLP. This is a law firm. And this firm actually at one point represented a woman who claimed she was raped by Leon Black, but they eventually wanted to withdraw from the case. And anyway, the email states, quote, "Leon Black, Wall Street person, 72 or 71 years old now, founded largest private equity global fund that exists today that's publicly traded. One of Epstein's friends, very powerful.
One of Epstein's
Got a call from victim woman who said that she heard about lawsuit against Black. Victim said Black raped her around 20 years ago, 2001 or 2002, in Epstein's townhouse. Victim described it, felt pain, on massage table with head on floor and legs on his shoulders, excruciating. Spoke with Redacted in
Wow.
Manhattan DA's office. Substance abuse problems in 1990s, preyed on by Epstein, gave massages to Epstein and Black for money. Another claim. Minor
Well, but he should have been in jail.
victim at Epstein's townhouse and was told to give Leon Black a massage. Violently raped by Black. 16 years old when raped by Black. Epstein and Black used to talk about
Black needs to be in jail.
how victim and described her as being 10. They knew about her. Redacted. And when you couple those allegations with emails apparently showing Epstein associates arranging meetings between him and Black, I mean, there's one, Leon Black will come see J.E. tomorrow at 10 a.m. He may want breakfast. Please be prepared. It doesn't look good. And while Black's lawyer, Susan Estrich, previously denied the allegations, for example, saying
Black needs to be in jail, man. You know what I'm saying? Black doing too much.
in a statement, Mr. Black asked for an independent investigation of his relationship with Epstein. The Detchert law firm investigated and reviewed more than 60,000 documents, interviewed more than 20 people, and concluded that Mr. Black paid Epstein for estate planning and tax advice, and that he had no awareness of Epstein's criminal activities. There was still fallout. Black reportedly left Apollo in 2021 after a lot of questions came up about his relationship with Epstein, although he said it was for health reasons. But how about this? You had a school photography company known as Lifetouch came under a lot of scrutiny recently because it turns out its parent company, Shutterfly, was owned by Apollo. Again, where Black worked. So the concern is you're storing all these photos of kids. They put out a statement on their website on February 10th saying Lifetouch is not named in the Epstein files. The documents contain no allegations that Lifetouch itself was involved in or that student
Shout out
photo.
to Ms. Pooh for being a member for the last 17 months. She said, salute my favorite content creator of all times. You know we in here, Ms. Pooh. Let's go.
Those were used in any illicit activities. And it also should be noted that Apollo wasn't linked to Shutterfly and Lifetouch until September of 2019, so this is 1 month after Epstein died. By the way, Black has never been charged with a crime in connection with these allegations. But also another person I got to talk
Black
about, Richard
needs to be
Branson,
charged.
okay, the billionaire founder of Virgin
Virgin
Group.
Mobile.
Now, his association with Epstein was already quite known, considering the two were photographed together. But let me just expand upon that, because you can see so many emails exchanged between the two or trying to connect the two.
Wow.
Like you have this one from 2013 to Jeffrey Epstein that reads, Richard Branson is unable to come to your island because he has guests, but he wants to extend an invitation to you for lunch on Sunday. Dean Kamen and Greg Weiler will be going as well to this lunch. Or how about this one from November 2013, where Epstein writes to Branson's assistant, I can send heli or meet anywhere. And Branson's assistant replies, hi, Jeffrey. If Richard comes to you for lunch, would he have to go through immigration and customs on St. Thomas? Is there a quick way of getting through?
you, Ms.
And then you have
Boober.
direct communications, like this one from Branson to Epstein in September of 2013. Dear Jeffrey, it was really nice seeing you yesterday. The boys in water sports can't stop speaking about it. Anytime you're
But some of this stuff that's reported on the Virgin Mobile CEO or founder or whichever one you want to call it, this is crazy, man. Wow, man. Just people, all these rich people. I'm talking about so extra rich people, multimillionaires, billionaires, just caught up in this nasty nut. Boy, this is really sick.
in the area would love to see you as long as you bring your harem. I think if Bill Gates was willing to say that you've been a brilliant advisor to him, that you slipped up many years ago by sleeping with a 17-and-a-half-year-old woman and were punished for it, that you've more than learnt your lesson and have done nothing that's against the law since, and yes, as a single man, you seem to have a penchant for women, but there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, something along those lines. So I have to make the argument, is that seemingly in relation to his conviction, right? A way to rehabilitate his image to get more business? Maybe. Now, Branson's company came out, denied that he had any involvement in Epstein's wrongdoing, that his meetings with him were limited to group or business settings, and that he cut off ties with Jeffrey Epstein after they, quote, uncovered serious allegations. And by the way, in a statement, Branson's company says, had they had the full picture information, there would have been no contact whatsoever. Richard believes that Epstein's actions were abhorrent and supports the right to justice for his many victims. What about United States Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick? I'm sure you heard his name in the news recently. So this is Epstein's former neighbor. He has been taking a lot of heat recently over his connection to Epstein. See, the problem for Lutnick is the files seem to show he was in contact with the convicted felon years after he claimed he cut off contact with him. Like you have this one from Lutnick, where he writes Jeffrey Epstein, I believe in 2018, are you aware as to them building to block our park views? What should we do about it? Time is of the essence. There appears to be an
triple tribe. I don't know why these people ain't in jail.
To Epstein from Lutnick asking him to attend a Hillary Clinton fundraiser in 2015. You have this email from Epstein's assistant in 2017. Hello, Amanda. Jeffrey Epstein will be contributing to the UJA Wall Street dinner honoring Howard Lutnick. Can you please provide an address to where we can FedEx a check to? Whose attention? Anything else we should know? And how about these from 2012? An email from Lutnick to Epstein. Hi, Jeff. We're landing in St. Thomas early Saturday afternoon and planning to head over to St. Bart's, Anguilla on Monday at some point. Where are you located? What's the exact location for my captain? Does Sunday evening for dinner sound good? I have another couple, Michael and Marcy Lehrman, with me on my boat, and each of us has 4 children.
Hey guys, make sure you guys are stepping on that like button, man. The way you do that is to double tap the screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up, man. This is a little bit about the 300 names that were dropped within the Epstein files that the DOJ put out. You know, some directly tied and some just in there by chance. You know, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new.
2 16s, 2 14s, a 13, a 12, an 11, and a 7-year-old. Thanks, Howard. The response back, quote, below from Jeffrey, comes Saturday or Sunday lunch, Little St. James on the map behind Chrisman's Cove. By the way, there are currently calls for Lutnick to resign, but nothing has come of it yet. But the fallout for others, not so great. Like you have Larry Summers, former head of Harvard, Treasury Secretary. The friendship between
Trump name was most definitely in it.
Summers and Epstein's was well reported. You had the Harvard paper, The Crimson, revealing a lot that Summers had apparently visited Epstein's Island in 2005. There were flight records as part of a lawsuit that revealed he had traveled on Epstein's plane multiple times. But then you get these emails that come forward, and you see all these communications between the men, like where Summers was looking for Epstein for seemingly romantic advice, with Epstein saying, quote, he's a pretty good wingman. I didn't want to be in a gift-giving competition while being the friend without benefits. You have this exchange from just months before Epstein was arrested in 2019, where Summers writes about some woman. I said, what are you up to? She said, I'm busy. I said, awfully coy you are. Epstein responds, she's smart, make you pay for past errors. Ignore the daddy, I'm going to go out with the motorcycle guy. You reacted well. Annoyed shows caring. No whining showed strength. Now, Summers released a statement that said, I'm deeply ashamed of my actions and recognize the pain they have caused. I take full responsibility for my misguided decision.
Isn't that why you need to go to jail?
To continue communicating with Mr. Epstein, but he ended up stepping back from his duties at Harvard. He resigned from his board position at OpenAI.
Don't just step back, go to jail.
Now, again, to be clear, just a mere association or mention or emails or correspondence doesn't mean that anyone had knowledge of criminal wrongdoing or participated in criminal wrongdoing. And just to be clear as well, no one has been charged other than Maxwell and Epstein. But again, that is just a sampling of some of the things we're seeing as the names were released. You can go and do your own research and see what you find.
Nasty, just nasty, man, just nasty, man. I had no idea some of these people who had all this money was doing this ridiculous, nasty, you know, horrible, horrendous, you know, type things with little ones, man. These people is out of line, man. These people is out of line. Another name that popped up in there was Les Wexner. He's scheduled, I think, today to go in front of Congress and basically testify in the Epstein situation. Check this out.
Would want to be subpoenaed by Congress, and so it's an uncomfortable process.
Right now at 5, Ohio's richest man is about to testify before Congress. Les Wexner is scheduled to answer some tough questions about his friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It is a story that has dominated the headlines for years.
Whoa.
Tonight, we have team coverage. Mike McCarthy is leading us off live in New Albany.
And Jessica, good evening to you. We are live right now here at the Wexner Community Park. Where I'm standing right now is land that was donated in part by the Wexner family. And in just a few hours, the New Albany community will be at the center of the political firestorm surrounding the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. The fact that tomorrow's congressional deposition is happening right here in New Albany.
Brandon, who you talking to, Doc? Who you talking to, Brandon? You know what I'm saying? Let's get the rockets in the track. We may have one that's ready to take a trip. Brandon, who you talking to? Let me know exactly who you talking to, Brandon.
Albany is not lost on this community. Les Wexner has been a driving force at building the New Albany we know today. He's been a leader in the business world with the founder of L Brands and labels like Victoria's Secret and Bath & Body Works. And this is the area where his massive estate also is located. Our team tonight is digging deep into this story. Terry Sullivan showing us what led to this big moment. First, though, Tom Bosco is taking us through what this congressional deposition will look like.
If you've watched any courtroom drama on TV or in the movies, you probably have a good idea what it means to be a witness in a case. But what does it mean to sit for a deposition? I'm at Capitol Law, where we talk to an expert who tells us exactly what Les Wexner is in for on Wednesday.
Oh,
what
Wexner.
can he expect tomorrow? What will this be? Comfortable, uncomfortable, confrontational, cordial? Do you have any idea what to expect?
I think it's going to be a very long day.
Anthony Markham is a lawyer and professor at Capitol Law. He's also worked for former Senator Ben Sasse, so he knows his way around both a courtroom and Capitol Hill. He says being a witness and sitting for a deposition are two different things.
It's sworn testimony for both depositions and being a witness at trial, but they're serving different purposes.
Les Wexner will answer questions from members of Congress looking for more information about Wexner's relationship with now deceased convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It sounds like the lawyers
Lord
are
have
doing
mercy.
investigation still. Is that a way to describe this?
Very much so.
There's been a huge appetite for news surrounding Epstein, but don't expect to learn more on Wednesday.
This is not going to be aired publicly. This will not be on TV. This is going to be closed door with committee staff, members of the committee, the person being interviewed, and two of their lawyers.
Plus, Markham says Wexner will be able to invoke his Fifth Amendment right to not incriminate himself. Markham says there will be a lot of questions.
You're going to expect about an hour for one.
I think they should not have him be able to give the fifth. You man, say everything you know, even if it gets you in trouble. What is we doing?
Side the majority party and then another hour from the minority party. They can go multiple rounds, so they can go quite a long time asking questions, going back and forth. It seems like this subpoena was bipartisan. So there's bipartisan appetite for asking questions.
And he says it could be an uncomfortable day for Wexner.
It seems like they're very interested at least getting to the substance of Les Wexner's relationship here. So certainly the committee has a lot of advantage in how this process is run. I certainly wouldn't want to be subpoenaed by Congress. And so it's an uncomfortable process.
Wexner will at least be on his home turf. Congressmen are coming to his New Albany compound for that questioning. How common or uncommon is it that DC is
He get to get him to come to his house and ask him these questions. He ain't even have to be in the courtroom, and it's not going to be public. Wow.
to New Albany rather than the other way around?
Not common, but it does happen. I think a good recent example is when the committee had subpoenaed Bill and Hillary Clinton, for example. They offered to go to New York and do that deposition there.
More questions, but the answers won't be readily apparent by the end of the day. In downtown Columbus, I'm Tom Bosco, ABC 6 News.
And here is a look at the congressional committee that will be questioning Les Wexner at his home tomorrow. It is a bipartisan group that makes up the House committee.
You get to do it at your house. That's stole, y'all. He get to have his deposition at the crib.
On government reform. It is chaired by Representative James Comer. He's a Republican from Kentucky. The ranking member is Representative Robert Garcia of California. There are 26 Republicans on this committee. Here is a picture of them. There are 2 Ohio Republicans among them. They are Jim Jordan and Mike Turner. There are 20 Democratic members as well, including Congresswoman Shontel Brown from Ohio's 11th district.
He must got a big crib, all them people coming to his house. That's 40 guests.
As we await the arrival of those committee members here in New Albany, today we found a wide range of emotions and expectations. There's a sense of anticipation, of skepticism, and a lot of curiosity.
All right, so we got Lex Wexner, you know what I'm saying? Is going to most definitely be there. You know what I'm saying? A little bit more. Hold up, where am I at? Okay. A little bit more on them names that was released. And they also was talking about Elvis. in these Epstein files. Let's go.
Probes of Jeffrey Epstein. That list includes many prominent figures who appear in the files without any context, like
They got
Janis
the Pope
Joplin
in there.
and Pope John Paul II.
They got the Pope
No
in there.
one name besides Epstein and his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell has ever been charged in connection with Epstein's crimes. Several lawmakers argue the Justice Department is intentionally muddying the waters on who was a predator versus someone simply mentioned in an email or perhaps an article.
Billionaire Tom Pritzker is stepping down as executive chairman of Hyatt
He in the files.
Hotels over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, saying he regrets his association with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Meanwhile, the Justice Department sent a weekend letter to Congress listing hundreds of prominent people listed in the Epstein files. But there's a but, and it's a big one. Being mentioned doesn't necessarily mean anything. Elvis Presley is in there, and he died almost 50 years ago, which raises questions about why DOJ sent this 6-page letter that you saw with scores of prominent names. Yes, there are some presidents, business leaders, government officials who have been well documented in their ties to the convicted sex offender. But there are many others who are simply talked about in the Epstein emails and texts. You are on the Oversight Committee. That's one of the jobs and the committees that you sit on in Washington. One of your colleagues, Democrat Ro Khanna, said that this
Jasmine
is DOJ's
Crockett.
attempt to muddy the waters. Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace pointed out that the list is, quote, missing names. What's your reaction?
Yeah, it's selective release. We've seen this consistently. There is an agenda that this DOJ has, and that is why the American people simply do not trust the leadership in Washington right now under this administration, because it feels as if it's more about protecting pedophiles than it is in actually seeking truth and justice, which is the job of the Department of Justice. So sadly enough, just like when we saw the initial release of the Epstein files, we saw that there were victims' names that
Do
were...
y'all think that this was something that was thought up by the Trump administration? I'm just asking, to throw all these names out there so when people start saying, hey, Trump name off in there, the Trump administration can be like, hey, Chris Tucker name off in there, Jay-Z name off in there, Scarface, what's his name, Robert De Niro, his name off in there, just to, like they said, muddy up the waters. Could that be what they were doing?
Least as well, and it was clear that that was intentional. Sadly enough, I feel like that was an attempt to intimidate these amazing survivors. And frankly, we saw when Pam Bondi appeared before Judiciary, the other committee that I serve on, that they absolutely were the courageous ones, and our pathetic Attorney General, sadly enough, is not doing the job that she swore an oath to do.
You said pathetic, talking about budget.
There's so much that was redacted from these files. I know you are one of the lawmakers who went in and looked at some of the unredacted documents. What were your takeaways?
No, that's actually not the case. I went in to see unredacted files, and of the files that my staff had listed that they wanted me to go ahead and try to review, all of those files were still redacted. And so I was asking the staff that was there, why is it that I am here? And basically it was just a waste of my time. This is another thing that concerns everyone, whether you're talking about a Ro Khanna or a Thomas Massie. There's a lack of transparency and seemingly an attempt to cover up. It is really sad that the United States has historically led this world, and right now we're seeing the United States fall for so many reasons. We see leaders all around the world that are resigning. Go ahead.
I just want to make sure I
Ms. Danita
understand
say distractions,
what happened.
absolutely.
So
Distract.
you went in, as did many of your colleagues, to see unredacted files. But was it the specific files that you wanted to see that they would not unredact? And
correct.
Why do you think that is?
The
Do
way
you know the context around those?
I don't know exactly what all I was supposed to see if it had been redacted. My staff gave me a list of specific files that they were like, we think you should try to go and look at these. They have 4 computers set up for all 435 members of the House. I sat down at one of those computers. They showed us how to go through the process of actually seeing the unredacted version. I then had to have the person that taught us how to do that to say, wait a minute, am I doing something wrong? Because as I continue to search specific documents, they are coming up and they are redacted.
So even when she tried to unredact them, there were certain files that were coming up that were still redacted. Wow.
So the explanation that I was given is that that must have been how they were sent over. And there are a lot of documents that they've been getting the same issue. They've been trying to resolve, I will say, because a lot of members have had that problem. So they were taking note of everything that I was trying to unredact and denoting that they were not available in an unredacted form.
Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California. He serves on the House Judiciary Committee. Hi, Congressman. So what was your immediate reaction when you read this list of names, which includes people like Marilyn Monroe?
He kind of remind me of the Virgin Mobile dude. She said Marilyn Monroe name was in there. Wow.
Oh, who died when Epstein was just 9 years old.
Get real is my reaction. It's nonsense. These monsters were forwarding news articles about me. And if you check these billionaires' emails today, I bet they're still talking about me because they're worried. They're worried about many that they've listed in that email, and they should be, because I and many others that they're trying to muddy us up with are not going to rest until every single one of them has been brought to justice. So this is just a distraction. The American people want to see justice on these files. The Congress has asked for this. It's not going away, Pamela. And as I said, I'm not going away.
Notably,
the victims aren't going away. More important.
Well, certainly, and we will continue to talk to them. Notably missing from that letter, I noticed, were names like longevity Dr. Peter Attia and Steve Tisch, co-owner of the Giants, both of whom communicated with Epstein in the emails in the most recent dump of files. They haven't been accused of any wrongdoing. But what do you make of that? This big list of names, including Marilyn Monroe and Elvis Presley, and then those names not actually being on the list.
Marilyn Monroe and Elvis Presley. I think they said Epstein was 17 years old when Elvis passed away, and like 9 years old when Marilyn Monroe passed away. What are they names doing in there? That's what make people say they tried to muddy the waters.
And also, by the way, the name that is listed the most in these files and talked about the most is Donald Trump. And of all the people that Jeffrey Epstein talked to in the world, and it looks like this guy got around, and there are millions of files, and Donald Trump's name is mentioned many, many times, up to 1 million. Some are speculating through the searches. There's only one person that Jeffrey
Trump's name was in there up to 1 million times. Lord.
Epstein described as his best friend, and that's Donald Trump. But the effort since this summer, and I want to just walk you through the timeline, has been to avoid this at all costs on the Republican side. They refused to swear in Adelita Grijalva when she would have been the person that got the Epstein discharge over the goal line. During the summer, they were willing to shut down the government because they didn't want these files to be released. And again, the Department of Justice won't release all of the files now, and many of them, are redacted, and only about 50% have come forward. It's a cover-up job at the Department of Justice, but we're not going away.
And certainly Trump's name has been in there quite a lot, and he has not been accused of any wrongdoing. But certainly it raises questions the way that this release has happened, as you noted, from the survivors themselves who have been on this show and have asked why it's being handled this way and why some names are redacted, others aren't. And this letter lists reasons why the Justice Department redacted information that goes beyond the requirements of the law passed by Congress compelling the Epstein files release. Many members of Congress say that's unacceptable, but what recourse do you actually have at this point?
We need 30 more of y'all to hit that like button. Let's get the likes up to 200. If you haven't hit that like button, guys, double tap that screen on your mobile device or click the 3 dots, hit the thumbs up. Most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're finding out about these new names that were released in the Epstein files.
Well, to keep taking the Department of Justice to court, I'd recommend that in the next round of funding for the Department of Justice, we withhold funding until they get this right. And I was a former, sexual assault prosecutor in California, and you don't have to have done that job to understand why this is important. But when I talk to Californians, this is one of the most important issues to them. The Epstein files are not just about documents. Many people see this as a final exam for democracy. Either the most powerful people in Washington are going to hold to account these monsters, or they're going to protect them. And right now, I think you're better off if you're on the side of the victims and transparency rather than to do anything to protect the people who may have been at fault.
Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie of Britain's royal family thrust into the spotlight after being named hundreds of times in the latest tranche of Epstein files.
Wow.
The saga involving the late sex offender had already engulfed both their parents, the former Prince Andrew and his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson. Now, new details have emerged about Epstein's friendship with the princess's mother, who seems to have brought her daughters into his orbit even after he was convicted for sex offences. A series of emails released by the Department of Justice indicate that Ferguson, Eugenie and Beatrice all visited Epstein in Miami in 2009, just 5 days after he was released from jail. He served 13 months for soliciting prostitution from a minor. "Do you need a ride?" Epstein asks before they lunch. "No, thank you," the former Duchess replies, adding, "It'll be myself, Beatrice and Eugenie," at a time when they were 20 and 19 years old.
Wow, I would never send my kids to know Jeffrey Epstein. Wow.
In a subsequent email, Ferguson tells Epstein, "Cannot wait to see you." A separate thread between Epstein and his personal assistant days earlier also appears to indicate that he paid about $14,000 for the trio's flights to the US. And here's another email chain, nearly 2 years later, in 2011, between Epstein, Ferguson, and her then spokesperson. In it, the former Duchess says that Beatrice advised her on how to handle a British journalist to whom she had given a statement about Epstein. Just last year, Ferguson's spokesperson said she had cut off relations with Epstein, quote, as soon as she was aware of the extent of the allegations. But all these DOJ files suggest otherwise. As for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Beatrice and Eugenie's father, he remains under pressure from his ties to Epstein. The disgraced former prince has previously...
So Prince Andrew was sending his daughters to Epstein. Wow. Knowing he knew what was going on and you send your own kids, I would never.
He denied any wrongdoing, including after he reached an out-of-court settlement with a woman who said she was trafficked to him as a teen. Beatrice and Eugenie have kept a low profile through all of this, and there's no suggestion of wrongdoing simply because they've been named in the Epstein file.
Wow, guys. He sent his kids with Epstein. Wow. You know, after he been there, he know what's going on. They got all these pictures and all of that of him. He sent his dog, man, these people sick, man. Double tap that screen. Let's get the likes up. We need 14 more likes to hit 200, guys. All right, now let's get a little bit into the Nancy Guthrie situation, guys. I know a lot of people been paying attention to that. I know I have too. And, you know, one thing that goes through my mind is, how did the intruder even get into her crib to kidnap her, you know, basically in 2026? I'm just saying, here goes some updates, you know, and a little bit more information on Nancy Guthrie, guys. Let's get off the sick stuff with the Epstein people. We need 7 more likes, guys. 7 more likes to get us where we need to be. We really should be past that, but we'll take 17, you know, right now. Double tap that screen if you have not, or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel. Most definitely subscribe if you're new, as we find out things about this Nancy Guthrie case, guys.
Investigation is the drama playing out in real time in Tucson. The abduction of Nancy Guthrie, a case with new developments every day, but still no answers. Here's the story. In the normally peaceful Catalina foothills north of Tucson, a disturbing mystery has shattered the calm. 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie, was reported missing February 1st after she failed to arrive at a church service and family members discovered her home in troubling disarray. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nano says investigators believe Nancy was taken from the house against her will. That set off a search that has now transformed into the biggest true crime mystery in America. Who is the mysterious man caught on camera in the middle of the night carrying a gun and wearing a mask? Who wrote the ransom letters? And how much more do investigators know?
Things that stuck out to me. They wanted the money in cryptocurrency, guys. They didn't want. They felt like it was untraceable. But I've heard people say that the money is that's traceable as well. You know, it was a lot of people that were saying it was the son-in-law that may have did this. Some people that were feeling like the daughter may have been in on it. And then the thing that got me was, you know, the dude in front of the camera with the backpack and all that. Like, it's a lot of crazy things going on within this case. People are still being kidnapped from their home in 2026.
With thousands of tips pouring in and the eyes of the nation watching, when will Nancy Guthrie be found? I want to bring this story back to its genesis, and we know people go missing every day, unfortunately.
They haven't said anything yet about the DNA. I guess when they were talking about getting the DNA off the glove, they haven't said anything if they got actual DNA yet. We're waiting on that.
Across the country. This case is very different, though, which is the abduction of an 84-year-old. That, never happens. I've never covered a story like that. But the other part of this story that made it such a big story from the beginning is the fact that Nancy is Savannah Guthrie's mother. And Savannah has spoken out on social media during the course of all of this that is transpiring with her mother missing. Take a listen.
On behalf of our family, we want to thank all of you for the prayers for our beloved mom, Nancy. We feel them, and we continue to believe that she feels them too. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that
Well, they said that they think that the backpack and the jacket, you know, that the dude had on came from Walmart. I'm not sure if they stamped that yet, but that was most definitely a speculation. They said they believe that the guy is from the Arizona area and that the things that he had could be purchased at Walmart. I haven't heard any official reports that said they are. TMZ just supposedly just another ransom note. Yeah, and they sending all the stuff to TMZ. That's crazy.
Felt my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt.
You suck. Hey, Joseph, you suck, dog. You know what I'm saying? Let's get you right up out of here. You suck. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, man. You suck. Who you talking to, boy? Let's get you right up out of here with your good hating self. You know, we'll holler at you. Go find you somewhere else to watch it, sir. Let's get Joseph right up out of here. You know what I'm saying? He smelled like chicken poop.
Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help.
Do y'all think she has something to do with it? People are always saying that. Do y'all think that her, you know what I'm saying? Y'all think she in on this?
Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help. I wanted to come on, and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and I just wanted to come on and say that we still have hope. And
they said I see somebody down there to say the family was cleared. Okay, kidnappers sure have the feds stumped for you being a small town. Man, hey, look, they done cleared the family.
We still believe. And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is, never too late. And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late.
Man, this is sad, man. Goodness gracious, man. I want to share the tear, man. Golly, man. You know, just imagine your 84-year-old mom being kidnapped by somebody and you don't got nothing to do with it, man. That is, whoa, man. Prayers for her family, man. I hope her mama okay.
To do the right thing. And we are here. We believe. And we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. And it's never too late.
What a difficult, this is torture. This is, you know, you when you get older, most people, at some point you're going to lose your parents, and that is devastating. It is a devastating moment. Think about this moment for Savannah and her sister and her brother, that you don't know. You're holding on to belief that someone will step forward and do the right thing. Someone took your mother in the middle of the night? Now, let's get to a huge development. At least I think it's a huge development, which was the seizure of a vehicle. This Range Rover was...
They got a Range Rover in this situation, guys. They seized a vehicle, a Range Rover, in the Nancy Guthrie situation.
These federal agents seized a gray Range Rover overnight on Friday. It was in the parking lot of a Culver's. It's a restaurant, fast food restaurant in Tucson, about 2 miles from Nancy's house. The sheriff's department...
Y'all think this could be the vehicle of the person that took her? If it is, it sure is a nice vehicle. It's not a ran down vehicle. It's not an old vehicle. That is a Range Rover.
Said the activity was part of the Guthrie investigation. Someone was temporarily
Who kidnapped somebody, you know, while driving a Range Rover?
detained, but not arrested. But as you're watching right here, the Range Rover was taken. They brought the flatbed in, put it up on the flatbed, and they took it away. It's now evidence that they're taking a look at, right? Which brings us to the first question in our investigation. Why? Why was the Range Rover seized? What does it take to get to the point where you can seize that Range Rover? What do they know? What does it mean? And then what could the seizure then lead to? Joining me, former NYPD
Whoever took it wasn't broke. They was driving a Range Rover.
officer, retired Nassau County Lieutenant and Commanding Officer Mike Gould, and retired homicide detective, host of the true crime show, The Murder Mind, Vince Velasquez. Great to have you both here. Okay, Vince, I'm going to start with you. Well, with both of you, just give me a number 0 to 10. 10 being wow, 0 being eh. The fact that they seized this vehicle but did not arrest
Shout out to Court TV,
the
guys.
owner or the driver of the vehicle. 0 to 10, how big is it? Vince?
I would say 5, right in the middle.
How many of y'all knew that they seized that vehicle? Or was this something that y'all just learned about here? Because I most definitely didn't know before I seen this that they had seized a Range Rover, guys. I didn't know that. It's brand new to me.
I can think of a few reasons why. I would say 5.
Okay.
I'm kind of in the middle.
All right, Mike, where's your number?
A little lower, around 2 or 3.
2 or
but,
3? All right,
yeah.
let me start with 5. Vince, why 5?
So, you know, we got to look at what's the probable cause here. They have to have some type of evidence, some nexus to allow a judge to sign a warrant to seize the car, search the car.
Okay, they said
Could be a
that
number of
yesterday.
things.
I
It
didn't
could be
know.
the telematics of the car. Range Rovers, some have
All right,
something
thank
like
y'all.
OnStar, which has a cellular modem, may have hit off a cell tower. They may have a person of interest who has a cell phone that pinged on a tower close to the crime scene, or it could have been a license plate reader, an LPR, where that tag number hit on something. I think with a case of this magnitude, a judge would be a little more lenient on probable cause to try to get that information. I don't know how I would be able to search that car without
Let's
a
go,
warrant.
Misty.
And that may very well be the evidence that's connected to it. Now, what's interesting is this thing was searched, my understanding, simultaneously when they hit the house. So it seems it was coordinated. It seems like, that was planned. And as you said, Benny, they detained somebody and let them go. We haven't heard anything about that. Also, we haven't heard anything about any evidence that may have been recovered from the car. So I think they're doing their due diligence, and I think they're just trying to be safe, trying to be careful.
Mike Gould, you're not as optimistic here. You're below 5. You're down in the 2 or a 3. Tell me why.
Well, Vinny pushed it up maybe 1 or 2 points, but Vinny's quite correct. This vehicle, particularly Range Rovers, they offer a great deal of very sophisticated digital evidence that can be had with a warrant generally. You meet where the car went, how fast it went, lateral movement, slowing down, going in reverse. So obviously, if this person was a person of interest, this stuff is very important evidence, but it just doesn't seem, a lot of the evidence thus far that I've seen or been presented with was always, including the glove, it's always in the 2 or 3 range. It's not a smoking gun whatsoever. So, I agree with Vinny. Potentially, it's a lot of evidence, but why they didn't arrest him, again, they might have let him go for various reasons. He might be under surveillance, but they did take the car for a reason. And generally speaking, you need a search warrant to take a car. You can't just, you have to have probable cause to arrest somebody, and then you can take the car and inventory its contents pursuant to a lawful arrest. So the problem we're having is there's a lot of missing information. We're just getting tidbits of information, and we're just speculating a lot.
Sure. Now, Vince, Nancy Guthrie was taken.
Now y'all track down people that's did worse than what these. Why haven't they got these people already? I'm tripping on that. Like they found these other people within hours, but then it's been days and you still can't find this person who did this to this elderly lady.
I don't think she was carried away from the house. I think she had to have been transported in a vehicle. Is there any way that you believe Nancy Guthrie could be transported in that vehicle and there'd be no trace of her in there? Obviously, they're going to search. Do you think would it be possible for her to have been transported? She was bleeding when she was leaving, by the way. Is there a way for her to be transported in that vehicle and the FBI has seized that vehicle and the vehicle show no evidence that Nancy was in it, if she was in fact in there?
I mean, it's possible. It's highly unlikely. I mean, you're talking about the evidence recovery team from the FBI, top-notch, world-class. I've used them on my crime scenes before, and they leave absolutely no stone unturned. So not impossible, but very, very unlikely that there wouldn't be something, a hair, a piece of cloth.
Didn't they say that the abductor took her medicine as well? Y'all think that when they bust up in her house basically and kidnapped her, she may have told them she need that medicine and that's why they grabbed it? Or could it be somebody that she knows she's taking medicine and made sure to take it so that, she didn't unalive while they had her? I'm just asking. It's just certain things that make me ask questions like, why did they take her medicine with her?
Match the color of her sweater, something that would tie that together.
I've seen reports. You say no, they took the medicine, but I've seen reports that said they took the medicine with them. You saying they left it, but I seen reports that said that they took her medicine with her.
That she was in that vehicle.
They said they didn't take her medicine. See, Miss Pooh Bear said, I know, right? They left all her stuff. Man, I could have sworn I seen somewhere where they said they took her medicine too. I think I covered it. But if they didn't, I'm going to say allegedly. But at the same time, I think I covered this. And they said that they took her medicine with her.
Didn't find anything.
Mike Gould, how much do you think they knew about the person associated with the vehicle before this seizure? Because again, not arrested, detained while they took the vehicle and then eventually let go. How much before the seizure, how much background do you try to get for an operation like this?
Yeah, so you're trying to get as much as you can, obviously, but there is some incongruency here that they take the vehicle, but they didn't take the person of interest, so to speak. To your earlier point, though, there has to be blood. If she was bleeding.
I knew I wasn't tripping, Ballin. Ballin said they most definitely said that they took it, but some other news outlet said that it was left. Okay, she has a pacemaker, right? Yes, she does. I don't think they took the meds because the family has said she needs her daily meds. Okay, yes, pacemaker. Okay, well, it's contradicting reports out there, man. You know, some saying they took it, some said they didn't. Whichever one, I'm gonna leave it to y'all to whichever one is right. But I know I have most definitely seen reports where they said that the people took her medicine with her.
She left the scene. So we have highly trained human remain detection dogs, actually, that could go over that vehicle and locate blood droppings or biological samples of varying different things associated with a human being, particularly if they're injured and bleeding. So I would find it highly unlikely that
yeah, and the ransom notes was crazy, man. They wanted the money in Bitcoins. And then they got another ransom note that said, hey, I know who took Nancy, but y'all gonna have to give me a Bitcoin, which is worth $67,000, guys. And the person said that they are not the ones that know who took her, but if they send the coin, then they would direct them to a person who knows who took her. I'm like, man, this is crazy.
You can't find evidence, some DNA in that car of the victim if she was in fact transported in that car. It's almost impossible in my view.
Yeah, Vince.
Vinny,
go ahead.
Let me just say this. So one thing that we have to realize here is they either have a suspect, a person of interest that's tied to the car, or they have some type of serialized number tied to that car. Now, if it was just a tip and somebody said, I saw a Range Rover in the area, well, they're not just going to focus on that particular car. So they either have to have someone that they're interested in, and now the nexus is their vehicle, possible transporting Nancy Guthrie in it, or there's something with the vehicle itself, and then the nexus is the person. And that could explain why they want the car, they want to look for evidence. They, in an abundance of caution, I would do the same thing. I'd bring him in for questioning, and if he doesn't confess, or he doesn't say anything incriminating, let him go and continue the investigation. But there's something there, either with the person or with that vehicle.
All right, guests are standing with us. Coming up next, was this a burglary gone wrong?
I don't think it was a burglary. I think it was a kidnapping.
Shooter is my son.
I don't think it was no burglary, my guy.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
That was
She
really
said this is very valuable to us, and we will pay. Did they pay?
big moment. I thought it was going to be a game changer in all of this when they're saying, listen, we will pay. We will pay. And this was at the moment when there was a lot of focus on the ransom note and the deadline. The deadline was on a Monday. The message came out over the weekend. We will pay. And yet there was no payment, at least no reporting of a payment made, and there was no reaction.
And I don't think I heard anything about a payment either. But she said we will pay.
To that video either. So there's a reporter out in Tucson with AZ Family, Arizona's Family. It's the name of the station, the news organization. Has been doing some great reporting on all this. Brianna Whitney is her name. And you know, reporters have standards, and
the student of war said this is some BS. I hear you, man. Look, it's a lot of things about this that make my antennas go up. But anyway,
organizations like AZ Family have standards before they report things from anonymous sources, right? Sources that they won't give out the names to, right? And she's had some reporting here that I think is really significant in all this, and I want you to take a listen to a piece of her report.
Hi, guys. We are now able to independently confirm some new information in the Nancy Guthrie investigation. This is from an inside source that is now reportable. We can now report investigators now believe this was a burglary gone wrong. And last but probably most...
They believe this was a burglary gone wrong, man. This was most definitely a kidnapping. It wasn't nothing burglary about what I just saw.
Important. The widespread belief by investigators tonight is that Nancy Guthrie could be alive.
Okay, that's pretty huge, right? That's like major, but it's coming from sourcing.
All right, so let me know down there, y'all. Do y'all think it was a burglary gone wrong, or this was a straight up kidnapping by somebody trying to get paid, you know, for kidnapping this lady? Y'all think it was somebody looking to burglarize her house and then just wind up kidnapping her? Or do y'all think that they went there and that was the reason why they went there was to kidnap her?
Within, that they can confirm something. So they learned something and then went to the source to try to confirm it, and they say the source within law enforcement confirmed it to them, but not putting their name on the record. Reporting like this is very, very, very common. It's usually more connected to politics, but in these kinds of stories as well. Well, the sheriff seemingly responded to that. Take a look at what the sheriff posted. Pima County Sheriff's Department spokesman, PCSD has never stated that this was a burglary gone wrong. Any reports indicating otherwise are inaccurate. This remains a very...
The Pima County Sheriff say absolutely not. We didn't say nothing about no burglary. Yeah, it didn't seem to be no burglary to me. When a person come to steal, they come to steal. You know, I could have seen maybe if they tied her hands up, you know, or tied her up or something, you know, but when they took her from the crib, that from her house, that most definitely let me know that this was more than a burglary. You know, people don't usually come to steal stuff from your home and then kidnap you. I'm just saying, no, they came there with the intent of kidnapping that lady, and that's exactly what they did.
Active investigation. Okay, so the public statement, that's not true, but the source is saying, yeah, this is what they're doing here. So that brings us to the next question in our investigation. Was this a burglary gone wrong? Right?
No.
Is there anything that seems to indicate that? Is that possible, potential, likely in all this? Do we think that investigators are working under this theory and just don't want to publicly state it? Still with me, former NYPD officer Mike Gould and retired homicide detective Vince Velasquez. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't buy it. I don't go in that direction. I should say anything's possible. But burglars want to get in and out. They're a random burglar entering a house like this.
Hold on. Matter of fact, while we're here, let's see what the sheriff had to say about this, if this was a burglary or a kidnapping.
Genetic genealogy testing that helped catch notorious killers is now playing a key role in the Nancy Guthrie case. Officials say this investigative tech was key in finding criminals like the Golden State Killer and more recently, convicted Idaho killer Bryan Kohberger. All this as the Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos reveals the results from the CODIS testing of the DNA evidence collected so far.
There you go.
Watch.
The DNA on the glove that was found 2
This
miles.
is with the DNA, guys. If it was DNA found from that glove, this is what you want to see. Let's go.
Away was submitted for CODIS, and I just heard that CODIS had no hits.
Is there a match
No hits.
on the DNA?
They said it was submitted to whatever the name of that place was, and there were no matches. That's what the sheriff who over this just said. Listen close.
Submitted for CODIS, and I just heard that CODIS had no hits.
Is there a match
No
on
hits.
the DNA in the glove to the DNA, the unknown DNA that you found in the
There's
house?
no match to the DNA at the house.
So entirely separate DNA.
No matches to the glove. No matches to the house or art. You know what I'm saying? Any of that. No matches to each other and no matches to the house. It's crazy.
So that would mean if there's no, is there a CODIS match from the DNA in the house?
No.
Our next guest is a retired FBI assistant special agent in charge for Arizona who covers the Tucson area. John Weinarelli joins us now. John, thank you for joining us. You just heard that there, no's across the board. What are investigators doing right now when it comes to this glove and the DNA that has been discovered, given these developments?
Well, the fact that the information is not in CODIS is not the end of the road. As you discussed, there's been a lot of ways DNA has been developed through the other systems out there, the 23andMe, Ancestry. Any person related to that individual who left their DNA behind at Nancy Guthrie's home, if they've ever taken that test, that DNA evidence is going to be out there, and it will link them to other relatives. It's just a matter of finding, is there any sort of connection? That's what the FBI and the Sheriff's Department are doing right now.
How long does that take, John?
Well, it can be a fairly quick process because the DNA has already been tested and it's in the system. Now, no one just gives information away. They have to get a court order. They have to get the agency that has the information to cooperate. But in this case, everybody seems to want to assist in any way they can. I imagine we're going to see a fairly quick turnaround. We might even hear something within the next 24 or 48 hours.
Also, John, here's Sheriff Nanos with what appears to be a major admission that investigators have ruled out the theory that Nancy Guthrie's abduction was a burglary gone wrong. That is his current.
They ruled that out, so I knew it because it just didn't make sense. They have ruled out a burglary gone wrong, which answers the question from a while ago.
An assessment. Listen to this.
Your briefings, you believe it's a kidnapping?
I believe it was a kidnapping.
Targeted kidnapping?
Yes, I believe whoever did that knew what they were up to.
So do you believe
knew who they were after?
What do you make of that analysis?
I think law enforcement knows more than they've shared, and that makes sense. You always want to hold details back that only the person responsible would know. We've heard that there might be multiple cameras, including the Ring camera out front that was taken. Perhaps they have other video surveillance that shows further action. Maybe they've gotten some information off that shows the type of items that were in that rather large and packed backpack. All of that leads them to believe that this wasn't just a burglary, but somebody who was looking to commit a nefarious act.
Okay, John, then why has every single law enforcement official that we've had on this program that's working this case or that is opining on the case saying this doesn't look like any kidnapping that they have ever seen in their entire career in law enforcement? Any thoughts on that, John?
They were so clever with it. It's just so strange that they're not being caught, guys.
It doesn't look like any kidnapping I've ever worked or seen either. Just because the person had a nefarious intent to do something.
Make sure if you're just now coming in the room, you double tap that screen, guys. That's how you hit the like button and click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up as we get breaking details when it comes to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, guys. This is all brand new from today.
Doesn't mean they were organized or skilled in doing it. It certainly is not what you would expect. Normally a kidnapping, you're looking for that profit. You're looking to communicate with the family and do it quietly, not through TMZ. So it is unusual. But the most important thing is all of this has to be worked to find Nancy Guthrie.
Yeah, and if this is an organized kidnapping, did the kidnappers have her medication? Did they order it in advance to keep her alive? And if
they said if it is a kidnapping, do they have their medication? So y'all still don't know. That's why there's conflicting reports.
Ransom notes are in fact fake, then why did these kidnappers not reach out to the family yet? There are just so many questions that are still unanswered. But I do want to ask you, John, about this Tucson gun owner. Yesterday, he said that an FBI agent came to him and presented him with a list of names and images of people and asked him if anybody matching those names or images came to his store to buy a gun. And Sheriff Nanos is disputing that claim. Listen to this.
There are going to be many, many more setbacks than there will be advantage.
My girl Nancy, man, she ain't playing with this situation either. She most definitely be talking about it. We might get to what she said later on tonight. You know, if I feel like going live, might go live at night. You know, and basically cover what Nancy's been saying about all this.
In this case, the fact that that glove around 2 miles away from her home did not get a CODIS hit. Okay, fine. We may have a good chance at the Arizona databank, which has over 500,000 DNA profiles.
We've heard, for instance, the FBI is asking about 40 people at gun stores.
That's not true.
Okay, so have you narrowed it down to a few dozen, or are we?
We haven't narrowed it down to anything other than we have certain pieces of evidence that we're looking at to try to find this individual.
Yeah, that last clip, of course, the one we're focusing on. What do you make of that denial?
Well, one thing I'm seeing here is that both the Sheriff's Department and the FBI have to get on the same page when it comes to speaking with the media. I'm the former spokesperson for the FBI nationally, and we do this all the time. No one should be speaking independently. It may very well be that the sheriff doesn't want to discuss what's going on with the investigation at this time, but importantly, if the FBI is going out and talking to people like that, that means they've made possible subjects. There's been a list prepared. It could be bringing us one step closer to resolving this case.
Yeah, I think if it looks like a list and walks like a list, it's a list. And I understand what you're saying, that the sheriff there may not want to disclose certain things, but the report is out there. We will see if this turns out, in fact, to be the list where the suspect is on.
That's right.
Retired FBI assistant agent in charge for Arizona, John Weinarelli. Thank you, sir.
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmer.
All right, so you hear him say it was not a burglary gone wrong, but basically it was an all-out kidnapping. They sent the DNA through to be tested, and there were no matches, guys. No matches. But the sheriff most definitely says that this case is far from cold. Check this out.
On the search. An FBI official now telling Fox News that investigative genetic genealogy is underway in the Nancy Guthrie investigation. That comes after the sheriff in Pima County, Arizona, Chris Nanos, confirmed that DNA found in a glove potentially linked to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance was run through the FBI's national database, but there was no match found. At the same time, the sheriff has a strong message for the kidnapper, saying, quote, "We will find you," and quote, "We will find Nancy." Sheriff Chris Nanos, who will join us later today on Live Now from Fox, spoke with Fox News Channel just yesterday about where the case stands. Here's a clip of what he had to say.
The DNA on the glove that was found 2 miles away was submitted for CODIS, and I just heard that CODIS had no hits.
No hits on the DNA found in the glove.
Correct.
No hits on the DNA in the glove. That means the person has never been arrested before. That's crazy.
Have you narrowed it down to a few dozen, or are we?
We haven't narrowed it down to anything other than we have certain pieces of evidence that we're looking at to try to find this individual. Whether it be DNA, whether it be that Ring camera video, whether it be evidence at a Walmart that might lead us to somebody. What I do know is we won't quit. We're going to keep after you. We will find you.
He said they're going to get him. He ain't stopping.
And again, that was the sheriff speaking just yesterday with Fox News Channel. He's expected to join us scheduled right now for later on this afternoon. So we'll bring you that conversation on Live Now from Fox as it gets underway. Now, the sheriff also saying that the Guthrie family and their spouses have been ruled out as potential suspects.
How many of y'all agree that they should have ruled out the Guthrie family? I hear a lot of y'all saying son-in-law. Son-in-law, son-in-law, son-in-law. But the authorities have ruled out the family as suspects, guys. Was that a good move or a bad move? Press 1 if you think that was right what they did, or 2 if you feel like they need to be looking into that family.
In the case. Just over a week ago, the FBI released this doorbell camera video, eventually calling the man in that video a quote-unquote suspect. The agency described him simply as a man about 5'9" to 5'10", with an average build, wearing a backpack. Nancy Guthrie was reported missing on Sunday, February 1st.
I see a bunch of ones and twos down there.
Investigators say she was dropped off at her home in the Tucson area after dinner with her family. Sheriff Nanos quickly saying it was clear from the scene that Guthrie had been abducted. He also says he believes at this point that she is still alive. Right now, I do want to discuss.
Oh, the sheriff said he believes that Nancy is still alive, guys. So basically, there's no sign of her basically done passed away of anything or anything like that at this time. He believes that she is still alive.
Of the latest developments here, let's bring in Toby Braun, the founder of American Special Investigative Group. Now, he specializes in professional investigations and private intelligence, joining us now live. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here, Toby.
Good morning, Josh. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And first off, I wanted to ask you, because we know from the sheriff that apparently there was no match found in that glove that could potentially be linked to the case. The DNA was run through the national database there. And again, no matches found. What does that mean? What happens next here?
Ultimately, the only thing that means is that that's that suspect, the DNA found in that glove, presumably if it is linked to him, and it very well likely be linked to him because that glove is very, very unique. And I just don't, as an investigator, I don't believe in coincidences. So the fact that they found this very similar glove close to the scene, again, probably is the glove used by the perpetrator. Now, the fact that there was no DNA hit in CODIS, the only thing that means is that that individual has not been arrested before. Therefore, his DNA was not on file. So as an investigator, what I do, especially when I go out and I teach law enforcement, one of the things that I think is often overlooked is that there's so many different private data banks of DNA profiles in the United States and in the world, for that matter. There's you have various ones in the United States. As a matter of fact, some of them advertise on Fox News. And these DNA data banks have their own, obviously their own DNA profiles on file that would not be able to those data banks. And that's definitely one of the things that they should be doing right now is leveraging and building those, if those relationships aren't already existed, with those private data, DNA data bank providers to identify to see if that DNA profile could be on file with any third party.
And of course, we did hear from the sheriff. He did several interviews over the past several days and essentially said at this point he has no reason to believe that Nancy Guthrie is not alive. But as time passes here, how does that change how investigators go about investigating the case and looking at tips as time passes? And we know that she does have the need for certain medication.
He certainly does, and it's a grave concern, of course.
Let's pause that for a second, as we got breaking news that I didn't even know was going on. We got Caroline Leavitt speaking live from the White House. Y'all think she'll speak on this situation? Let's see what she's talking about. We'll come right back to this, guys. Hold up.
On Friday, President Trump will host a working breakfast with governors in the East Room here at the White House. And on Saturday night, President Trump and the First Lady will host the annual Governor's Dinner. Next, I'd like to provide an update on the economy. We're seeing promising signs every day that 2026 is going to be a record successful year for the American people, just as President Trump promised them. The January jobs report shattered expectations, highlighting how the president's pro-growth economic agenda is fueling American prosperity. The economy added 172,000 new private sector jobs to kick off the year. That's more than 2.5 times economists' predictions. The labor force participation rate went up while the unemployment rate fell. The prime age labor force participation rate is now at its highest since 2001. Most importantly, 100% of all job creation
this is live, guys,
under President Trump continues to be in the private sector. This is truly remarkable. That's 615,000 private sector jobs that have been added in President Trump's second term thus far. These are real working people. These are real American families who will be living out their American dream. Meanwhile, federal government employment has shrunk to its lowest level since 1966, saving taxpayers $29 billion annually. All of the net job growth under President Trump has gone to native-born Americans, ending the disgraceful pattern under Joe Biden of job gains going to non-citizens and illegal aliens. Additionally, on inflation, the new CPI report is even more proof of the progress made by President Trump. Despite all of the doom casting from the so-called experts, the president has managed to utilize powerful tariffs to secure trillions of dollars in investments into our country and rebalance our trade deals while simultaneously cooling inflation. Year-over-year inflation fell to 2.4% in January, beating expectations again and marking the lowest level since May. Core inflation, the best measure of inflation, dropped to its lowest level in nearly 5 years. Meanwhile, real average hourly earnings for all private sector workers rose in the month of January, which means more money is going back directly into people's pockets. After only 1 year of President Trump back in office, real earnings for all private sector workers have outpaced inflation by nearly $1,400, earning back roughly half of the $2,900 they lost under Joe Biden when 40-year high inflation was stealing Americans' purchasing power. President Trump's policies are and will continue to allow Americans' incomes to go further for bills, retirement, and achieving the American dream. A key part of the American dream is buying a home. And that is finally becoming more affordable under this president. This past week, it was announced the annual mortgage cost for a new home has fallen by $4,000 so far under President Trump, after rising by roughly $15,000 under Joe Biden. As a result, mortgage affordability has reached a 4-year best following recent bold action by the president to make home ownership more attainable for American families, not large Wall Street corporate institutional investors. At the same time, national median rents have fallen to a 4-year low and have declined for 6 consecutive months. The annual rental cost for a new rental unit has fallen nearly $100 so far under President Trump, after rising more than $3,000 under Joe Biden. And many are crediting that to the president's deportation efforts to remove illegal aliens from our communities and therefore from housing that should be used for American citizens. At the grocery store, the price of eggs, dairy, cheese, fresh fruit, apples, oranges, potatoes, tomatoes, and butter have fallen since President Trump took office, and he is continuing to fight for even lower prices at the grocery store.
I'm trying to find these places they talking about where all this stuff done, the prices done went down. Gas done went down, everything done went down. Yeah, right. Everything's still high.
National price for a gallon of regular gas is now less than $3 and is approaching $2.70 in some states, and much lower than that in many states across the country as well. We've seen in several states gas is under $2 a gallon. And at the pharmacy, prescription drug prices are down over the past year, with even more price relief ahead for American patients, thanks to President Trump's most favored nation drug pricing deals and the great healthcare plan, which he is calling on Congress to pass as soon as possible. What President Trump wants Americans to understand is that this is only the start and the best is yet to come. The historic success that we have seen since he took office is just the beginning of enormous growth and opportunity that we are about to witness. And I know the president looks forward to hitting the road and being with the great people of Georgia tomorrow to talk about just this. So with that, today, I know there's a lot of news. I will open it up to take your questions, and we're going to start, as always, with our new media seat, the great Michael Graham.
Ask her about Nancy. Ask her about Epstein.
Thank you for having us, and thanks from our 200 newspaper partners around the country. So you mentioned gas. We didn't mention natural gas. And back where you live, your friends and family are paying among the highest prices for natural gas to heat their home, and for electricity generation, the #1 source of power across New England. The cheap gas is in Pennsylvania. The 2 highest places to buy gas in the country, New York City and Boston. The problem is the blue states will not allow the gas to travel to produce electricity or to reach customers. When President Trump first came back in office, there was some talk, him and Governor Hochul in New York possibly reaching a deal. When will consumers in the Northeast feel relief from President Trump's energy policies, and what can he do about state objections to expansion of infrastructure? And then I have a quick follow-up.
Sure, absolutely. Well, the president has promised all Americans across the country, and in particular in the Northeast, where we do face much higher costs of electricity and of energy, unfortunately.
We need 30 more on that like button, guys, to hit 300, man. Double tap that screen if you have not.
Because of the Democrat policies in the area. From the federal government's perspective, the president and the National Energy Dominance Council, Secretaries Wright and Burgum, are doing all we can when it comes to federal permitting. The The drill baby drill agenda is obviously underway. The president has made a huge push for more fossil fuels in this country. You look at what he did last week with respect to coal. Coal truly keeps the lights on in this country. We learned that in the recent winter storms. However, there's only so much that can be done at the federal level. That's why the president has called on blue state governors to participate in this energy dominance agenda, including governors in New England and the Northeast, by contacting Governor Hochul directly to
I thought I was tripping. That woman most definitely had some in the center of her forehead.
Get this Constitution pipeline underway. This is not only going to bring down the cost of energy in the Northeast, it's also going to support job growth and energy affordability and more opportunity for workers in the Northeast. And I just have a quick statistic here on energy that I found fascinating, and it's obviously true because I'm saying it up here. Red states with Republican legislatures currently enjoy lower average retail electricity prices than blue states with Democrat legislatures. And that's exactly why the president is calling on all blue state governors across New England and the Northeast to get on board.
I thought I
Let's
was
bring prices
tripping.
down
Yeah,
for all
she had
Americans,
some in the
whether
middle
they
of her
live in red or
head.
blue state.
So right down the street from your alma mater, San Antonio College, talking about building an ICE facility.
Yeah, that woman got something. Let me pause it real quick. That woman do got something in the middle of her head. Hold on. What is that? Like a bullet hole or something. What is going on? What is in the middle of that woman's forehead? Is that a birthmark, maybe? It ain't no lint. That's a big old piece of, it's Ash Wednesday. What is that? People put ashes on, hold on Wednesdays, people put ashes on their forehead, in the center of your forehead, and it's called Ash Wednesday. What in the entire world is going, what is that? What kind of religion, what religion requires you to put ashes in the middle of your forehead on a Wednesday? See somebody say once a year. Oh, it's a Catholic tradition. Okay, so, okay, well, maybe not where I'm at, man. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm at, people don't just put ashes on the center of their forehead. That's, okay, all right, bet. Okay, all right. It's Ash Wednesday. You learn something new every day, folks. Hey, man, what is going on with her head? But okay, y'all. All right. I'm going to fast forward it so we can get back to what's going on currently. This is live.
It's causing a lot of political
operation. The president has always been very clear, though, with respect to Iran or any country around the world. Diplomacy is always his first option, and Iran would be very wise to make a deal with President Trump and with this administration. He's talking to many people, of course, his national security team, first and foremost, and you know who the members of that team are. And this is something, obviously, the president takes seriously. He's always thinking about what's in the best interest of the United States of America, of our military, of the American people.
No, I don't live in no cave.
And that's how he makes decisions.
But I do live in the country, man, and I haven't seen anybody ever in my whole life walking around with ashes in the middle of their forehead. I'm just saying.
The administration believes it's important to sort of convince the American people, sell the American people when we hear something about that in the State of the Union, to make the case for why something like that might be necessary to risk American lives.
Look, again, I'm not going to engage in a hypothetical. Good try, Garrett, but you can't catch me there. I will say, with respect to the State of the Union, you'll be hearing more about what is to come from the president's speech very soon at the appropriate time. It is going to be a very good and powerful speech, so everyone should tune in. Ed.
Caroline, thank you. I got two questions for
Sure.
you. About Independence Hall in Philadelphia, the administration's decided to appeal.
Oh, he got ash in it on the middle of his forehead,
trying
too.
to put the slavery displays back, arguing that the federal government believed it had the power to disassemble and disassemble historical truths when it has some domain over historical facts. The judge said it does not. The administration said that you were planning to put up updated interpretive materials and provide a fuller account of the history of slavery at Independence Hall. What more was the administration or is the administration planning to add?
I'm not familiar with this specific instance, Ed, to be honest with you, but I will check in with the appropriate people who are overseeing this, and we'll get you a more firm answer.
One other question then. Yesterday in his statement about Jesse Jackson, the president said, despite the fact that I'm falsely and consistently called a racist by the scoundrels and lunatics on the radical left, Democrats all, it was always my pleasure to help Jesse along the way. Where or when does the president believe he's been falsely called racist?
You're kidding, right?
No.
I will pull you plethora of examples. I'm going to get my team in that room to start going through the internet of radical Democrats throughout the years, Ed, who have accused this president falsely of being a racist. And I'm sure there's many people in this room and on network television across the country who have accused him of the same. In fact, I know that because I've seen it with my own eyes. And the president very much looks forward to having an event later this afternoon at 3 p.m. to celebrate Black History Month and to talk about how his policies are advancing opportunity and prosperity for all Americans through record tax cuts, through the Trump accounts that all Americans can access regardless of race. These are a great thing for the next generation of Americans. The president has also awarded hundreds of millions of dollars in additional funding to strengthen educational outcomes at historically Black colleges and universities across the country. Again, the president is protecting the hard-earned benefits of the 2.4 million Black veterans who honorably served in our nation's armed forces by reducing the Black backlog of veterans waiting for their VA benefits and for their home loans through the Department of Veterans Affairs. So there is a lot this president has done for all Americans regardless of race, and he has absolutely been falsely called and smeared as a racist, and I'm happy to provide you those receipts, and we gladly will right after this briefing. Jennifer, go ahead.
You mentioned the $5 billion in pledges for the Board of Peace. Will we be able to get a breakdown of which countries are providing each of those pledges?
Yes.
And which countries are providing troops?
Sure, we're happy to provide that breakdown, and I'm also happy to provide the list of countries that will be attending tomorrow. I know it's more than 20 countries. I know there's a lot of interest in that. I'll spare myself reading you the list of 20 countries from the podium, but we will provide it, and the president will be opening the meeting tomorrow with remarks, and will sort of formally be chairing the meeting at the beginning before he departs for Georgia tomorrow.
Sewage spill, the sewage pipe that broke on Potomac. Can you give us an update on the federal government's response? And officials have told CBS that some of that aging infrastructure is a concern, that this particular pipe wasn't even of the most urgent concern. Do you know if the government is looking into which other pipes could be at risk of collapsing?
Well, the next step in this process is for any of the three local jurisdictions involved, whether that's the Commonwealth of Virginia, the state of Maryland and Governor Moore, or the District of Columbia, to step forward and to ask the federal government for help and to ask for the Stafford Act to be implemented here so that the federal government can go and take control of this local infrastructure that has been abandoned and neglected by Governor Moore in Maryland for far too long. In fact, it's no secret that Maryland's water and infrastructure have been in dire need of repair. Their infrastructure has received a nearly failing grade in the 2025 report card from the American Society of Civil Engineers. This is the same grade they've received 5 years earlier. There has been no improvement under the leadership of Governor Moore. He's clearly shown he's incapable of fixing this problem, which is why President Trump and the federal government are standing by to step in. And for all of the environmentalists in the room and across the District of Columbia, let's all hope and pray that this governor does the right thing and ask President Trump to get involved, because it will be an ecological and environmental disaster if the federal government does not step in to help. But of course, we need the state and local jurisdictions to make that formal request. That's part of the legal process to move forward. Peter.
So you said that any of the three Democrats just need to ask. A few minutes ago, Maryland's Governor Wes Moore asked. He said, if the president wants me to ask nicely, our response is this: please, Mr. President, do your job.
To which I say, I'll ask the president and we will provide you with the next steps. But in all seriousness, the federal government has been preparing plans. The White House has been in contact with FEMA, with the Army Corps of Engineers, with the Environmental Protection Agency. Again, we've been standing by. This is a problem we want to fix, not just for the federal government, but for everyone who lives in the District of Columbia, including all of...
Can we get 11 more likes, guys? Double tap that screen if you have not, or click the three dots in the right-hand corner. Hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel, guys. Can we get 13 more likes, man? Double tap that screen.
The Potomac River will still smell like poop.
He is worried about that, which is why the federal government wants to fix it, and we hope that the local authorities will cooperate with us in doing so. Steve.
What will the $5 billion be used for in Board of Peace, and will that be sort of the down payment for much more money?
You'll be hearing more about that tomorrow at the meeting. If you recall, at the first meeting when we were in Davos, Jared Kushner did provide a very detailed PowerPoint presentation for the vision of Gaza.
Man, what a real reporter's at to ask the real questions. This ain't hitting on nothing. This just must be some people Trump sending in to ask questions.
First, you must achieve security to get to prosperity, which is sort of the second part of this plan. So you'll be hearing more about that tomorrow, but I would just point out $5 billion worth of investment. We're talking about reconstructing Gaza. I remember when those words came from the president's lips in the East Room many months ago, and all of you in the press were bewildered at how the president could have such an ambitious goal of rebuilding Gaza, which is obviously a place that has been just turmoiled by violence and chaos for many, many years. But we are well underway in doing that, and it's a historic accomplishment for this president.
Secondly, is the president seeing enough progress in the Iran talks to let negotiations go a little further? I mean, where do things stand after yesterday's talks?
I think you heard from the administration and the State Department yesterday that there was a little bit of progress made, but we're still very far apart on some issues. I believe the Iranians are expected to come back to us with some more detail in the next couple of weeks, and so the president will continue to watch how this plays out. Sure.
Follow up on that. Thank you, Caroline. On these Iran talks, I mean, how much time is the president willing to give it before he is seriously maybe considering military action? Is he willing to give it that full 2 weeks? And has he given the Iranian officials a deadline on when he wants to see it?
Well, Trump back into it? Well, he never stopped being into it. It looks like there's another thing on the horizon with Iran, guys.
Shut down over DHS funding. Has the president personally spoken to the Democratic leaders in Congress? Can we expect to see them at the White House to try to make a deal on this?
Not to my knowledge, he hasn't had any direct conversation or correspondence with Democrat lawmakers recently. It doesn't mean he's not willing to. I'm just not aware of any conversations that have taken place. I do know the White House and the president's representatives have been in direct conversations with both Democrats and Republicans. But of course, Democrats are the reason that the Department of Homeland Security is currently shut down. They have chosen to act against the American people for political reasons. And now we have FEMA workers, the men and women of the United States Coast Guard, men and women of TSA who keep our airports moving, who will be working without paychecks for no good reason other than the Democrats wanting to pick a fight with Donald Trump. And the president thinks that is irresponsible and despicable. He wants the government to be open. We've been engaged in good faith negotiations with the Democrats. Last night, they sent over a counter proposal that frankly was very unserious, and we hope they get serious very soon because Americans are going to be impacted by this. Sure.
Caroline, President Trump has talked about a forthcoming executive order on voter ID. Is there more details you can provide about for that? And can you talk about any steps that you're taking to overcome core challenges that you've kind of faced in this area before on voting?
Well, as the president said in that Truth Social post, he's discussing and exploring legal options for a potential executive order with respect to voter ID. But this is something he's made very clear he wants Congress to get done. The Save America Act is a common sense piece of legislation that has now passed the House of Representatives to ensure that voter ID is a requirement in the United States of America. This is a common sense policy that nearly 90% of the country agrees with. You need an ID to go and purchase alcohol. You need an ID to go to the library and check out a book. And so the president thinks you should have an ID to vote in our nation's elections. And I know the vast majority of Americans agree with him on that. And he wants Congress to move quickly to get it done.
Sure. On Cuba, you know, it's increasingly being described as a humanitarian crisis.
Oh God, we talking about Cuba. I ain't on that blast today, y'all. You know what I'm saying? That was Caroline Levitt a little bit about what she had to say. You know, I'm just on some way different, man. Hold on. Let's go back to Nancy Guthrie and some of this stuff that don't make sense.
I'm Vinny Politan. We continue our investigation of the abduction of Nancy Guthrie. The momentum seems to indicate investigators are getting closer, but Nancy's family's still waiting for the answers. Here's the story. When 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie failed to arrive at church Sunday morning, worry quickly escalated into a criminal investigation. The mother of Today's Show anchor Savannah Guthrie was last seen around 9:45 p.m. Saturday, January 31st, at her home in the Catalina foothills north of Tucson. By midday Sunday, relatives who found no sign of her inside contacted authorities. Investigators soon declared the residence a crime scene, saying the evidence strongly suggests Nancy did not leave on her own and was likely taken against her will. Blood confirmed to be hers was discovered on the front porch. Authorities have also said security cameras and digital monitoring connected to her pacemaker were disabled around the time she disappeared. Now, the FBI has joined the case and recovered previously lost images of a possible suspect. With those new leads in hand, the search for Nancy and the person responsible has intensified dramatically. A lot of moving parts, and every once in a while in a story like this with new developments each and every day, sometimes you got to go back and then sort of remember some of the things that we've learned and then connect them to some of the new information. So I want to do that right now. And I want to begin by going back to the sheriff talking about the timeline connected to that doorbell camera.
This is a timeline that we have been able to develop with some of the things that we've had processed. Various pieces of electronics that we've gathered. Sunday morning, early morning at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. At 2:12 a.m.,
timeline, guys.
software detects a person on a camera, but there's no video available. They had no subscription, and therefore it would rewrite itself. It just kind of loops, right, and covers up. That's what our analysis teams have told us. We're not done with that. We'll do all we can, but that's what it says. So that detects a person on camera. Could that be an animal? I imagine it's possible. We don't know that. We just have no video. But we're not giving up on that. 2:28. Nancy's pacemaker app shows that it was a disconnect from the phone.
When you say the doorbell camera was disconnected, do you believe that camera was taken?
We do not have it in our possession. We've not located it.
Okay, so that timeline was really the first time, like, okay, we see the window of time and we're wondering, 41 minutes? 41 minutes inside? What was going on during all that time? Now, another aspect of this case has been these ransom notes that have been sent to the media, and also other notes with people who have tips and have information but want to sell it for Bitcoin, right? Here's TMZ.
A $67,000 Bitcoin at that.
Talking about a fourth note.
It's 4 notes and they're going through TMZ to drop them all. That's crazy.
Know what I saw 5 days ago south of the border, and I was told to shut up so I know who he is, and that was definitely Nancy with them. He said there was a main person and there are others. He is saying that Nancy was taken to Mexico.
All right. A couple of things I'm taking away from there. One,
So now they saying Nancy is in Mexico, guys.
people who did this has spoken to the people who have done this and says, oh yeah, it was down in Mexico 5 days ago. You can take it for what it's worth, but this is still part of the ongoing conversation and investigation that's taking place. Now, another big moment from the sheriff finally speaking out about the Guthrie family. Take a look. Pima County Sheriff's Department spokesperson. To be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in the case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. And then goes on to say, to suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. Please, I'm begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism. Okay, but that's the first time we've ever heard that the family has been cleared. To be clear, that's the first time. Now, something else, another big piece of information that we got from the FBI, which was a description of the man seen in the video. I guess they did some sort of analysis. The suspect is described as male. People online were debating, man or woman. They're saying male, approximately 5'9" to 5'10".
I know there was a lot of people over here in my chat that was like, that's a woman, that's a woman. Then they start seeing a mustache or something that looked like a gold tee up under the mask. So basically it is a man, guys.
Average build. In the video, he's wearing a black 25-liter Ozark Trail Hiker Pack backpack. And what we've learned about that is that it's exclusive to Walmart.
Okay, so the backpack is from Walmart, guys. It has been confirmed. They suspected it, and they're saying that basically the backpack came from Walmart.
And finally, we see the suspect in the video himself. A lot of information, but taking all of that into consideration and everything else we know about the abduction of Nancy Guthrie, let's go to the next question in our investigation. Is the man in the video working alone?
Was there more than one? Now remember, he just said that whoever spotted them said that they seen Nancy with them, meaning multiple people. But now he's asking, is the man alone?
Is it just him? Joining me to help answer this question, Private Investigator Lauren Vellucci and retired police commander, host of Gardens of Evil Inside the Zion Society Cult, Mike King is here. Mike, I'll start with you, profiling evil. What are your thoughts here on the man on the porch? Is he working alone?
You know, Vinny, we have to accept the fact that all we see is one individual. But when we start thinking about the behavior of that single individual who approaches the porch, there's a couple of things that are really significant to me. Number one, he walks in pretty casually. He's not looking over his shoulder. He's not concerned about a car or somebody walking by with their dog. He is pretty dang confident that he's walking in undetected. Now, it's incredibly dark there. And we see him coming from the side of the house to the left as we're looking at the imagery, and then onto the walkway. So he's either come up that driveway and walked, or there's somebody out there parked in a vehicle somewhere along there providing a lookout. And the reason I wonder about that, Vinny, is because, again, he's not looking over his shoulder. He's not acting cagey. He's not acting spooked, even when things start to fall apart on him. And if, based on the other imagery we've seen, it's his second run at this thing. So he's already made one dry run without the backpack, without the weapon, and he's come in to look over the place. So that either is stashed away in a concealed spot, out the backpack and the weapon, outside of the house or the boundaries, or it's in a vehicle somewhere else where he can get to. If he's approaching that home thinking that he's got just one person to worry about, because again, how would you walk into a home like that and spend time not wondering if there's somebody in there that's going to tune you up if you come through the door? He's apparently got some kind of pre-knowledge as well about the layout of the place. Maybe it's because he's been...
All right, now hold on. We got a bit of breaking information going on in this situation, guys. We actually have, hold on, let me see. We actually have, y'all remember the guy that got detained and basically questioned by the FBI, but found out that they let him go. They named him as a suspect. Well, he did an interview where he wants his name cleared.
Wednesday morning, it's been almost a week now. What's the last week been like for you?
It's been hectic. Like, I can't even go out. I can't dash for my wife because...
This was the guy that was detained basically by the FBI. They were thinking it was him, and then they let him go. He now wants his name publicly cleared. He say he's going through hell.
people taking pictures of us or following us. Like yesterday, we went out dashing, we got home, and there was this red truck following us. This morning was there too, so it's been kind of scary for me and for my wife, my kids, and everybody.
And again, this was something that before that point, it was kind of just a normal Tuesday. Is that what it was like?
Yeah, it was a normal Tuesday. It was my day off. I was working with my wife and everything, and all of a sudden, well, it happened. Like they were following me, and I pulled them over to see what was going on. And after that, it's been crazy, like nonstop. We're all scared. I can't stop thinking like what's gonna happen to me. What's gonna happen? Like my in-law, my brother.
I would be scared too. They probably gonna try to deport y'all.
They still arrested him and everything. They put him into SWAT car. I didn't know that. They put him into SWAT car. They even detained my wife and my kids. It was scary.
When did you realize? Obviously, they released you late at night. You know, we talked to you very briefly, and you got to go home and see. It's kind of a circus out there. It looked like.
Yeah.
What's going through your head when you pulled up back home?
Like, what are they doing at the house? Like, they already searched it. I don't know if they had to go like find evidence supposedly against me, but I don't know. It was crazy. It was still a lot of police there, a lot of activity. They didn't even let us go into the house like 20 minutes later. Once they released me, they still had the street blocked off. They didn't even get me get off the car or nothing.
Jesse, what comes next year?
Wow.
Well, I think, from our perspective, the first thing that really needs to happen is that the Pima County Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Nanos need to clear Carlos's name. They need to make this right. They've falsely arrested an innocent man. They've subjected his family to misery, humiliation, handcuffs, and there's no evidence. This was a wrongful arrest. It was a false arrest. They've cast this shadow of suspicion on Carlos and his family, and now they're living day to day. They're living in fear. And so the first thing that I'd like to see is Sheriff Nanos and the Pima County Sheriff's Office come forward and say, this was a mistake. Carlos is not a person of interest. He is not an investigative lead. We messed up. We need to see some accountability. Obviously, my hope is they're doing the best they can with their investigation. I don't know what the details of what they're doing are in that respect. That's not my department, but they need to clear Carlos, because right now he and his family are going through a nightmare where they look out the window and there are suspicious cars driving past their home. They don't know what's next. And so, it's just clear that whatever mistakes were made, Sheriff Nanos and Pima County need to fess up, and they need to clear Carlos so that his family can begin rebuilding and moving on.
And we asked the sheriff that even just this morning, and he said everyone they detained, because there was another person detained last Friday, right? And they said they were cleared to a point, was his wording. Has there been any evidence presented here? I know they mentioned their search warrants, right? And it's not just them searching willy-nilly, but from what you've seen and what you've heard, is there evidence here that makes this?
He was questioned. He wasn't arrested.
No, there's no evidence whatsoever. Our understanding is that they obtained the search warrant they obtained that allowed them to search Carlos's vehicle and his family's property through the use of a secret affidavit. As far as we know, that affidavit is sealed and remains sealed. And, our suspicion, our educated suspicion, is that this has something to do with cell phone pings, which everybody knows are unreliable. And, it's their job to come forward and say what evidence they have is. The fact that they went after Carlos so hard and then let him go, and it's obvious that they had the wrong guy. It's obvious that they messed up. And they need to actually say the obvious, though. They need to repair the damage they've caused.
Carlos, when did you realize that your name had, your family's name?
But could y'all imagine being, detained for something like this and people looking at you like you may be a suspect? I can only imagine the type of things that him and his family are going through right now. with it, because he was all over the news, you know, as like a person that was arrested, a potential suspect, and now to be, you know, released or whatever, you know, and only questioned, and your name done been all over the news. They must be terrified, him and his family.
You know, it spread over the internet really quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, that same night, I noticed, like, as soon as I did the interview, I went inside. My wife was on the phone, and on TikTok, the news everywhere. It was like that. Like less than an hour, everybody knew what was going on. We were my mom, my dad. My dad's backstory wasn't. They were trying to. I'm just saying. Say that was my dad that did it when it was like I was detained, and they brought his past life back, and like it's. I don't know.
And it's not just, you know, it's bad enough if you're accused of something you didn't do and it's a minor crime, you know, a burglary or something like that. It pretty much accused you
kidnapping
of at that point, and still probably maybe the most famous crime going on the planet right now.
Yeah. No, I want to know why.
When you mentioned that night that, you know, you weren't necessarily mad at the deputies, that they're doing their job, they were, you know, you want them to find whoever did this, but obviously they had the wrong guy here, right? Does that still how you feel?
Yeah, I'm frustrated that they didn't do a good job at it. They just went with supposedly a tip they had, but they could have done things differently. They could have walked to me and asked, like, hey, where were you there? Where were you? But they didn't. They did force. They used force, and I felt like I was being kidnapped.
And again, I mean, we talked about it that night, but
So he felt like he was getting kidnapped.
A lot of attention, and that's why it went so kind of famous on the internet. But up to that point, you hadn't heard anything about this case?
Nah.
Didn't know who Nancy Guthrie was?
Nah, all I do is work and be with my kids and my wife. I don't follow the news. It's something for me that I don't like.
So never something you wanted to be thrown in the middle of here?
No, and I'm here.
What's it been like? I mean, I know you've had conversations with your kids
The
and
man's
your wife and the rest of your family just in the last week. What have you guys talked about?
Well, they're mostly worried about me, like what's gonna happen to me, because, like my lawyer said, they haven't apologized publicly, or they haven't said I'm not a person of interest or anything. They just left it like that. So we're still worried. My in-laws are still worried too, like what's gonna happen. And my brother-in-law too. Like I said, my oldest son doesn't even want to go to school. But we're still trying to get through this.
It's gonna be tough too for your kids. I mean, just going to school. I mean, it's up into their life too. It's not just yours. Yeah. Has there been any conversation? And I don't know if it's for you, Jesse, or not, but has the sheriff's department reached out at all privately? I mean, we haven't heard really much publicly, but has there been any contact since then?
No. So we've notified the Pima County Sheriff's Office and the Pima County Attorney that we represent Carlos, but they've taken no steps to contact us to clear the air. We requested the return of his property. The only thing that was seized during the search was Carlos's phone, which has his driver's license as part of the case, and they still haven't returned that, or as part of the phone case. They still haven't returned that. We think we're in the process of making arrangements to have that returned as of Friday, but it's very hard, you know, when we've reached out to them, it seems like it's very disorganized. It's very hard to figure out who's in charge over there. And, you know, my number one concern right now is that in all of this rush to judgment that's happened, that they just don't want to take accountability and admit that they did wrong.
You know, and I don't know you don't follow the news, but they had another person detained. It looks like they towed another car. I know they didn't tow your car, but they towed another car on Friday night and this may be for both of you, but when you watch that and they already did it once to you and it looks like it's happening again to somebody else, I mean, what does that make you think? What goes through your head when you see that?
I think they're just guessing. It's a guessing game to them. I don't know, they're just playing with people's lives right at this point. If they don't have no evidence against anybody, how are they going to keep on doing this stuff to innocent people?
Yeah, and I mean, just, I don't know, but it kind of worries you as a person, right? If doing this to just kind of willy-nilly into anybody, who's next?
it should be a big deal to people, no matter what their political stripe, that the government has this power to come in, cast a cloud of suspicion on somebody, destroy lives, and then retreat and act like it never happened, and give statements like, well, everybody's been cleared to a point. That's not enough. It's meaningless. They don't have evidence. They made a mistake, and they need to come forward and admit it.
Will your life ever be the same?
I don't know. At this point, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know if it'll be the same. Like he said, they cast a cloud on me, like big time news and everything. I don't know if it's going to be the same.
Alfonso, anything on your mind? Anything else I should have asked you, or anything else you want to make sure we hit on before? I always hate making you drive all this way and then we talk for 10 minutes and I send you on your way, but I think that was perfect and you said it very well. So yeah,
I'm good as long as.
I think Carlos just wants to be done with this.
I didn't realize too that they still haven't gotten the phone now.
No.
Yeah.
No word from the police. No nothing. They, like you said, they haven't reached out to me or to him to apologize. Nothing.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you guys are all having to go through this, and I hope it all calms down soon here.
I just hope they get the person and be done. Yeah. Right now, I'm everywhere right now. And I don't know what to do. I can't hide.
Yeah.
At this point, what they did after they did what they did to me, I don't plan to stay quiet. It's not right. Like he said, it's the federal, the FBI. How could they be so inaccurate with their evidence and all that? Like, I don't know. It was wrong the way they acted.
Wow. It's hard to believe they kept you there all that time.
Well, they had me in the Miranda car first.
Yeah, okay.
That was like until 4, 5, 6, until like 8 at night. That's when the Pima County Sheriff replaced the Miranda.
So they stopped you at 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
And then it was 12:30 or 12 the week?
Almost 1 in the morning.
This is the guy that was detained, y'all.
Did it feel like that long when you were sitting there?
That felt longer. Yeah, and then being handcuffed with your hands behind your back when supposedly you're just detained. My shoulders were hurting, and I don't know. It's just it was a bad experience.
Was that it ended?
Yeah, so that was the guy that was detained, guys. Basically speaking on that. Let's get to the rest of this. Hold on. Yeah, because my question is, how did they get into the home? That's what I want to hear about. Let's go here.
Surprised by the fact that there's a camera there. Instead, just trying to figure out a way to, number one, not be detected, and a way to get rid of it. Because here, it looks like he's trying to do something with that bottom hand, too, right? It looks like he's trying to maybe get it off at that moment.
I have a thought on that as well. And I'm not saying that he handled this appropriately. Like, the fact that he knew something was there, I mean, he could have used tape and it would have been a whole easier process. I think this was probably the village idiot that they hired to just do whatever. But like,
call him the village idiot.
Think, and I know from personal experience, it is not difficult to hack those electronic locks. There are ways around that. So either he was doing something with that on his bottom hand, that's just my thought, or he had the code, because I do believe that there is some kind of a connection here to someone close in that family.
She says she believes it's something that's close to somebody in their family. And it's not far-fetched to think that dude may have had the code. That's how he got in the home. Let's go.
Family. And I believe, Vinny, I even sent you the pictures. The pictures of the foliage on the front porch. There is the foliage down, and then you can see the blood droplets. If you zoom in and really look closely, the blood is over the foliage. So it's exactly as Mike said, the blood was post this. So yeah, absolutely. And the fact that we even have video and things like that for us to zoom in is ridiculous. I am embarrassed that this crime scene was handled in the way that it was. We should never have even had a clue that there is blood on that, much less have reporters being able to walk and contaminate that scene.
All right, guests are staying put. Coming up next, How did the abductor get inside?
Let's get to it.
We love you, Mom. Stay strong.
We love you.
How did they get in?
Accused of meaning to
We're gonna find out.
We're still.
Live coverage week.
Potential audience 580 to the reference missing person and PTSD at 580-5020, approximately Samantha. To be referenced Nancy, a white female, 84 years of age, 5'2" medium build, powder blue, rings after 2200 hours as of yesterday. Nancy has high blood pressure, pacemaker, and cardiac issues. Family detail 6
Some of the original dispatch audio, it's now, been more than 2 weeks. Nancy Guthrie's been missing in all of this. I want to take a moment to take a look at the home and the different ways that you can get into the home. And we'll begin at the front door. Let's take a look at the front door of Nancy's home. Kind of walk up this way. We're getting a little bit closer. You can kind of, there's no lights, right? This is, as Cody Thomas was out there, talked about dark skies, how there's no illumination anywhere. But that's how you get there. Do we have a closer up shot of the front door? Okay. Let's take a look now. Fox News Digital, I believe, had this, or Fox News has the back door as we take a look at the back door area. And this is really the first time we've gotten to see that. There you see that it's blue. The part of the door there is blue. There's also been mention of another door that's on I believe on one of the sides there that may go into the garage area. So you've got the front door, you've got the back door, you've got another side type door going into the garage. And then of course you have the actual garage door, which is another way to get in there, which is apparently, according to the sheriff, how they believe and how they were told that Nancy, when she returned from Annie's home, got back in the house. Take a listen.
At 9:48 p.m., which is very consistent to what we were told by the family, that Nancy was dropped off at home, and we know that because we have a garage door open at approximately, I can't stress that enough, at approximately 9:48 p.m. At 9:50 p.m., that garage door closes, which is that time we assume that Nancy's home and probably going to bed.
And I'm going to assume that they must have some sort of an app that tracks all of that, like many of us have for our garage doors. You can open with an app, you can close with an app, you can also use your clicker. All right, so we got all these different ways into the home. That brings us to the final question in our investigation this hour. How did the abductor get inside Nancy Guthrie's home?
And that's the best question.
Abductors, right? Still with me, Private Investigator Lauren Berlucci, retired Police Commander Mike King. Lauren, what are your thoughts here on how they gained entry to this home?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they had some kind of inside person, whether that be someone connected to someone who worked in the home at some time, years past. There's no telling, but I do believe that it was someone who knew that they didn't have an active subscription, and that it would have been easy to get those cameras.
Same thing I said. They sure seem to know a lot.
Down and kind of knew a lot about the situation, whether that was the code, were they given codes at one time? It's very possible, or it would have been pretty easy to pick a lock. I mean, that happens all the time, unfortunately. But I do believe that there was people either inside or came later, and they did a lot of things in the meantime of being in there for 40 some minutes.
Mike King, what are your thoughts about how they were able to get inside of Nancy Guthrie's home?
I find myself looking at several angles, Vinny. I mean, one we can't disregard because we just don't know is the possibility that there was a con approach of some kind at the front door. Somebody finally bangs on that front door, that same suspect, and says, "Hey, I'm the police. I need to make sure you're okay." Now, the way he's masked up, less likely.
but I think of just in Minnesota last year, a state senator who's murdered by that very kind of guise. So we have to keep in mind that there might be a con approach. All of that aside, we really have to focus on that back door area, the garage area. It's possible somebody could have been hiding in the brush and waited until that garage door started to drop down and go inside. But the problem with that kind of a scenario would be, I believe the son-in-law would be in that driveway with his headlights on if he didn't get out and take her into the home personally, which I would think he probably did if she has such a hard time mobility-wise, but somebody could slip in that way. And then we got to think about the possibility that there's an unlocked door. And I'll tell you what, happens more often than not that somebody just happens to leave a door unlocked. And Vinny, you showed something just a moment ago that I haven't seen yet. And if we can somehow get back to it, there was a picture of the back door that you were showing. And to the right-hand side, it looks like you can see the round conduit, and I'm wondering if that's where that spotlight was that was broken off, because you can actually see all of that
would make
missing
sense.
in what looks
Right next
like
to each
just the
other.
wiring.
Yeah, we can't get back to it because we're out of time. Mike King, great to see you. Zion Society Cult, Gardens of Evil. Make sure you check it out.
All right, y'all. So we found out that they weren't able to recover, they recovered DNA, but it didn't match anything that's already in the system, guys. They believe that, hey, somebody could have picked the lock or simply went in through the back door when it comes to Nancy Guthrie, guys. In the latest updates, the family has been ruled out as suspects. You know, the family is good. We also covered the Epstein files, the 300 names, you know, and found out some of the people that were off inside the Epstein files that we didn't know about. With those names, some people were directly tied, and some people, you know, like they threw Elvis' name in there, were only, you know, tied by people mentioning them in emails, you know, type thing about whatever it was, but they had no interactions with the girls type thing. We found out Trump in there about 1 million times. Yeah, man, it's most definitely crazy out here in the real world when it comes to the news. I most definitely will be keeping an eye on it. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Shout out to everybody that hit that like button. And as they keep me updated, I'll keep y'all updated with the information. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel, man. If you have not hit that like button, double tap that screen, hit that thumbs up, man. You know, and most definitely, once again, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Shout out to my old subscribers as well as the new subscribers. Shout out to all of my members, old ones as well as the new ones, you know, and most definitely shout out to the people that may have sent a gift. You know, I most definitely appreciate that as well. Shout out to my moderators. Without y'all, I don't know sometimes what I do. You know, thank y'all for keeping this chat running smooth. Like I said, if any more information that I feel is worth reporting on comes out today, I most definitely will report it later. Make sure you turn your notification bell on to all, guys, so you don't miss a thing when everything news goes live. I appreciate it, y'all. Y'all have a great day, man. I will see y'all later.